We do have a quorum. We're going to go ahead and get started. If you'd like to go ahead and call the roll, that'd be great. Is your mic on?
Vice Mayor Baxter,
I'm sure
Commissioner
she's on her way.
Flores, Mayor Marino,
Here.
Commissioner Powell,
Here.
Commissioner Sachs,
Here.
Commissioner Weiss,
Here.
Commissioner Woodward.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. I've asked Commissioner Weiss to give the invocation and lead us in the pledge. If you could stand, that'd be great.
We ask you, God, bless this meeting of people who earnestly desire to do their work in the best possible way, to benefit those we serve, and to leave our children a better world. Please give us the wisdom and vision to plan adequately and to act correctly to achieve these goals. Amen.
Thank you. Do we have proof of publication?
Yes, we do.
May I have a motion to receive and file, please? I have a first from Commissioner Weiss, a second from Commissioner Woodward. All in favor, all opposed, see that that motion carries 6-0. May I have the county attorney do the swearing in, please?
All those wishing to testify or speak on today's items, please rise and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any additions, deletions, and substitutions? Yes, we do. Go right ahead.
Yes, we do. On the consent agenda, C4, DOA 2025-310 Covenant Church. We have a correction to the request. Item 6, DOA 2025-250 Big Dreams, specifically Exhibit C1 to modify to add the trailer to Site Design Condition 1. Item number 8, ABN 2025-789 Boca Raton Achievement, to amend the agenda to move it to the first item on the regular. Item number 9, PDD DOA 2025-00126 Whitworth AGR PUD, to amend the agenda to also move that one to the regular agenda, to amend the staff report and agenda relative to the staff recommendation to include language as it relates to the cash out, and to correct the title in the OR book and page to strike out the number 4 and add number 5 to the OR 34405. On the title, on D, the alternative to civic cash out for Whitworth. And on the next page, amend the Exhibit C2 Plan Development Condition number 2 to strike it out and renumber accordingly. Under D, other department items 12, Palmar Purchase Sales Agreement, modifying the agenda to provide the item backup, so that's also included. On the regular agenda, amend and correct the headings D, E, and E to re-letter to CDE. Other county department, item 16, County Transportation Master Plan, to amend the agenda to include the backup. And E, under workshop presentation, item 18, to modify the agenda to postpone this presentation to a later date.
Wonderful. May I get a motion to adopt that? Thank you. All right. Anyone want to pull anything from consent? Seeing Commissioner Sachs?
I just want to, thank you, Mayor. I want to confirm that 8 and 9 on the consent agenda has been moved to the regular agenda.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Who would like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended? Commissioner
We have
Weiss?
disclosures?
Oh, thank you. I always forget that part. All right. Commissioner Flores, we'll start with you on disclosures for items that are on consent.
It also always makes me nervous to say no disclosures, but according to, I don't have any disclosures.
No worries. Commissioner Sacks.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On the consent agenda, item number 2, Bednar's Market, written communication, verbal communication with Jeff Brophy, and a site visit. Item number 7, Pine Trail, written communications, and nothing else. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you. On item number 2, Bednar's Market, I had verbal communication with Steve Bednar, Jennifer Morton, Mark Perry, Lauren McClellan, and email correspondence that has been filed with the clerk. And on item 7, Pine Trail Shopping Center, I had verbal communication with Bonnie Miskell and email correspondence. And that is all.
Thank you. On the consent agenda, I notice everyone is talking about Bednar's. I have not had any contact since the last discussion, so all of my disclosures will be from the last time we talked about this. And item number 7, I had contact with verbal communication with Bonnie Miskell. That's all. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. For number 2, Bednar's Market, I had verbal communication with Steve Bednar, Jennifer Morton, Lauren McClellan, Mark Perry. A site visit and emails have been received and filed with the clerk. Also, number 7, I've had Pine Trail Shopping Center, verbal communications with Bonnie Miskell. No site visit and emails have been received and filed with the clerk. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Weiss.
Thank you. I have no disclosures until item number 7. That's Pine Trail Shopping Center. I had verbal communications with Bonnie Miskell, Joe Carosella, Tom Torkelson. I received email correspondence, been filed with the clerk, and I had a site visit.
Thank you. Commissioner Powell.
Item number 1, Nash Trail. I've had verbal communication. Oh,
That one's not necessary because it's been postponed.
that's right. You're correct. No disclosures. Perfect.
Thank you. Okay, since we've had our disclosures, now we had a motion and a second. All in favor that we accept the consent agenda as amended? Aye.
Could we have the maker and seconder restated for the record?
Actually, I thought it was Commissioner Weiss and Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you.
We can give it to Commissioner Flores next time. Thank you. All in favor? All opposed? See that that motion carries 7-0. All righty. So now we have Commissioner Weiss.
Thank you. I just want to thank our staff. We had one of the items on consent, Pine Trail, was for a new school going in there, and I just it's been a process, and I just want to thank staff. You guys were amazing. Please take it back to your office as well, because I know there were many people involved in bringing this to fruition, and it was a challenge at times, but you all hung in there, and we're great. So just want to thank you all, and I know that the applicant feels the same way. So.
Thank you. Okay, so that takes us to the point in the agenda where we have moved the items 8 and 9 forward, and that will be the first thing we hear, correct?
Correct. We have the applicant here. Well, technically, staff is the applicant for item 8, and I don't.
That's GL.
Oh, GL is the applicant for item 8. We just identified the need for item 8, so we do have Kevin Rattery here representing GL and he's going to have the clicker in a moment.
We'll do that.
Good morning, Madam Mayor, Madam Vice Mayor, members of the commission. For the record, Kevin Rattery, Vice President with GL Homes, 1600 Sawgrass Corporate Parkway, Suite 400, Sunrise, Florida, 33323. As part of my presentation this morning, you will be hearing from what I call the two Bs. Brian Seymour, the lawyer with Gunster, spelled with an I, who thinks it's spelled correctly, and Brian Kelly, senior transportation engineer with Simmons & White, spelled with a Y, who also thinks it's spelled correctly. They will be part of the presentation to make sure that we have some expert testimony on the record, because the item that is before you, both items, if you don't mind, I can just cover both at the same presentation. Both items relate to a development order amendment. It is a quasi-judicial matter. Your staff has recommended approval. Your zoning commission unanimously recommended approval. And so let me walk you through the petition. We are adding 14 acres to a previously approved PUD known as Whitworth PUD, which is built in two separate projects: the northern project, Valencia Grand, which is almost completed, and the southerly project known as Valencia Del Mar, which is just getting started. In order to add those 14.77 acres to the PUD, it is a 60/40 ag reserve PUD, we have to add 1.5 acres for each acre of new development for preservation. So we have 7 preservation parcels which are being added to the PUD to make sure that the overall PUD is 60/40 compliant. Just for the record, I was here last month on Palmettos and Johnson and Bridges. You may remember or recall a discussion. None of the 22.61 units that were part of that hearing are part of this petition. They are 7 new preservation parcels. The proposal before you has been determined to be consistent with the comp plan. It's been determined to be consistent with the ULDC. So I want to start with, that's the overall request. In order to facilitate that request, there's a couple of mechanical things that need to occur. One is that we need to release 18 acres of existing preservation that will be part of the new development area, and that's also being replaced with new preservation. We need to abandon an existing approval on one of the new 7 preservation parcels formerly known as the Boca Raton Achievement Center, which was approved back in 2024 for a private school. That contract never went forward. That owner then subsequently sold to the current owner, who entered into contract with GL to sell their unit rights and for our right to utilize that property as preservation. You will hear from the traffic engineer that abandonment actually reduces traffic on Lyons Road compared to the proposal that's before you. We also have a civic site cash out request. When we added 14.77 acres to the PUD, our 2% civic requirement goes up. We have a 0.295 acre civic obligation. That request is before you, and I'll explain a little more of that as I get into the presentation. So orientation-wise, the Whitworth South property, which is known as Valencia Del Mar, is shown in purple. That was approved by the commission in October of last year for 481 residential units. The area in orange is the 14.77 acres that is being added to the PUD. Whitworth PUD is the red, the purple, and proposed orange in terms of the development area. It is an 1,177 acre PUD in its totality between development and preserve area. This is an aerial of the same graphic I just showed you. Again, Whitworth South, Valencia Del Mar approved at 481 units. We are proposing to add 37 for a total of 518 units for the PUD. This is the master plan. Again, just showing the area in red is the expansion area where the additional acreage is being added. The area in green, which is Valencia Grand, there are no changes proposed to that PUD, inclusive of the, that's unique, right there on the west side of the project, you will notice a 2.88 acre civic site. That civic site is being dedicated to Palm Beach County under the development order. Last October, you approved a cash out for the companion civic site on Valencia Del Mar or Whitworth South. Again, by adding the acreage, we add the civic site. We did an appraisal of the civic site that was submitted to your PREM department. So the number that's before you, the 109,000, is consistent with that appraisal and the other policy, which is what would be the cost to convey it to the county in the event that it was being conveyed. So I wanted to make sure those two elements were part of it. This is the master plan for the Valencia Del Mar portion. Again, the 518 units. The access location is not changing. It does line up across the street to the Canyon Springs project. This is the conceptual site plan. Again, the area to the west over here is the 14 acres that's being added. There are a total of 44, yes, let me say that correctly, 44 preservation parcels attributable to this PUD. We have recorded 95% of those to date, but they are quite a bit of work to get all those conservation easements done and recorded in time for the project. This graphic is the overall PUD. It shows that the PUD is 60/40 compliant. It complies with the 60/40 regulations of the ULDC and comprehensive plan. The additional acreage that's being added to development is also being preserved in accordance with the 60/40 requirement. This is a very detailed list of all of the preservation parcels, which you don't need. So let me talk about the abandonment real quick. The site that's bounded in red is the Boca Raton Achievement Center. Again, it was approved back last year for a 300-unit private school. To explain why it's now part of the preservation, you're seeing an abandonment. A school is not an allowed use within a preservation parcel of a residential PUD. It is allowed in the preservation parcel of a commercial TMD, but not in a residential PUD. So in order to utilize that property as required preservation, we have to abandon the prior school approval. Again, just for the record, that approval went through. The contract purchaser could not come up with the funding for the school. They canceled the contract. The property owner then sold it to the current owner, who sold us their use rights. Just so everybody's clear, this is the consent form that was signed by the current property owner. And for those of you with 2005 vision, you will see under other, which I can't highlight because I guess it's white. Oop, went back. I don't know what I'm doing now, so. Oh, sorry, my apologies. The consent form, that other right there is the acknowledgement by the property owner that the abandonment is part of the zoning application that's before them. They are fully aware of the fact that that school approval is going away. This was the site plan. What Brian will provide testimony to is, because this school is going away, there's actually a reduction of 584 trips getting to Lyons Road. Again, geographically different location, one's between Boynton and Atlantic and one south of Atlantic, but that school approval has a high daily trip generation and a high AM peak hour generation. I'm going to bring Brian up to talk about Florida statutes relative to transportation concurrency. Brian with a Y.
Nope.
No, I.
That was bad. For the record, Brian with an I. Seymour, Gunster Law Firm. I can tell that I spelled it right because my mother said so. And we don't argue with my mother. We argue with pretty much everybody else in my family, but not my mother. I'm going to try to run through this really quick. I know you know this, but we also know that this is an issue for folks, and so we want to make sure everybody's clear on sort of how the law on transportation concurrency works. So first, it is set in Section 163-3185H. This is a arguable, at least, preemption by the state on what you are and are not allowed to do and how this has to work under Florida law. And so this really lays out the requirements, and the key is that it's not an option. It says must, and that's a requirement. So these are required pieces of how this gets implemented by Florida law. So if a road is determined to be deficient, transportation deficient, without the project that's under review, the necessary transportation improvements to correct that deficiency have to be considered in place when you evaluate what transportation impacts there are. So when you look further, it talks about when the provisions of subparagraph 1 and this particular subparagraph C are satisfied for a particular stage of development. Here we've got a single stage, so when it's satisfied, the transportation impacts from that stage are deemed fully mitigated. Fully mitigated. So you have no choice. You have to look at this. Once you get to that place, you get to full mitigation of the process. And so the question then becomes, what is a transportation deficiency? It's defined in section 5H4 of the statute. A facility or facilities on which the adopted level of service standard is exceeded by the existing committed and vested trips plus additional projected background trips from any source other than the development in review. In other words, you have to consider everything that might be on the road before this project comes in to determine whether that's an existing deficiency. So once you have an existing deficiency, you have to assume that it gets fixed before you analyze this. Then you look at the fix and say, okay, can that roadway as fixed, whether it is or not, that's where the legislature took it away from you guys to make that determination, whether it is or not fixed. Yes, ma'am.
Vice Mayor Baxter has a question.
Wow, that's impressive. I usually get through a little more. I'm that
Good
bad.
morning. So obviously, we've heard about traffic concurrency deficiencies and so on several times. Mr. Seymour, what are we trying to point at in this, I guess, particular section of this?
So the bottom line of this, and Brian, who doesn't spell his name correctly, is going to talk about how it works in real practical terminology and sort of how that works in this circumstance. The basic premise is we all know there's concerns about traffic, particularly Lyons Road, but traffic in the ag reserve. And so what happens when we come in for these projects, we get a lot of, but what about the traffic? What about the traffic? The point is we have to do this in a way that we assume in everything that's been done that those deficiencies are fixed. And the point to be made so everybody understands, it's not you and it's not us, this is how this works. And we just want to make clear, because we know traffic is an issue out there, there's really not much to be done. And this is why, even though people sometimes think that there's a traffic problem that it's on GL, in this case, to fix, it really isn't.
And so, follow up, Mayor. And so cutting to the point, is what you're presenting today, are you asking for an increase in density? Are you asking for something that would change this property that you're asking us to approve the zoning on in a negative impact to traffic?
So I don't think Brian will be able to answer the trip question specifically, other Brian.
With a Y.
Brian with a Y. Well, it happens to us a lot. But the bottom line is the impacts from the proposed development are accommodated based on the roadways as fixed. That's really what we're trying to get to at the bottom line of all of it. What the actual traffic numbers are and how they compare, I actually don't know that.
Thank you.
But I'm betting he's going to answer that question. And in fact, I'm just going to move right on to Brian, who can introduce himself and answer that question first before he goes through his slides, I'm sure.
Thank you, Brian. And for the record, Brian Kelly, Vice President and Senior Traffic Engineer with Simmons & White. We're a civil and traffic engineering firm located here in West Palm Beach, been around since 1982. I'm actually going to get to that question, but I want to go through a couple slides because it kind of leads into the answer to that question, I think, a little bit better. To give a little bit of information about myself, I have 17 years of traffic engineering experience. I received my professional engineering license in Florida, so I'm registered in the state of Florida, back in 2012. This is a ballpark estimate, but I've prepared well over 200 traffic impact studies in Palm Beach County, and it's probably very much north of that number. And because of that, I'm very, very familiar with Palm Beach County Land Development Article 12, which is referred to as the Traffic Performance Standards, and also familiar with Florida State's Chapter 163. So Traffic studies come up quite a bit here. Traffic is always a concern, and I would like to spend a couple of minutes going over the methodology of how we complete a traffic study. So when I prepare a traffic study, or another traffic engineer does in Palm Beach County, we don't just get to decide what methodology or procedure we get to use. We actually have to follow that Article 12 within your code, the traffic performance standard, where the procedure and outline is identified by Palm Beach County. And to conceptually think about this, I break it up into kind of 3 sections or 3 layers. The first one is existing traffic counts. Your staff does a great job. Once a year, they go out and collect traffic counts on pretty much all of the roadways throughout Palm Beach County. So we actually get the existing data from Palm Beach County Traffic Division. So that's layer number 1. The second layer we look at is what we call background traffic, where we're looking at historical growth rates, or we're also looking at developments that have been approved, but they haven't been built yet. So say you have a development that hasn't been built, we know there's going to be trips associated with that development that are on the road. So we take a look, once we get the existing counts and the background volumes, and we look at the roadway network and say, are there existing roadway deficiencies or roadway failures based on those conditions? Finally, the third layer we look at is we add in the traffic associated with the development site, in this case, the Whitworth South site, and to see what the impact of that is. And if there's any new deficiencies associated with that development site. So let's talk about what the traffic study for Whitworth South showed. First, and as mentioned, this site has previously been approved for those 481 dwelling units. When we did the traffic study for this site, we actually looked at it as a whole again. So we actually looked at the 518 units, not just those additional 37 units, which is what's being requested. If you look at just those 37 units, it's what we would consider a de minimis or insignificant impact on the transportation system. Those 37 age-restricted units are very, very minimal impact. But we took a big picture look at the whole Whitworth South site. What that showed was there was a background deficiency, which Mr. Seymour just kind of described, identified, including Lyons Road. So there was a background deficiency on Lyons Road as identified. However, the new development project, Whitworth South, does not create any new roadway deficiencies, and that's including the entire Whitworth South of the 518 units, not just the 37 units. And to give a little bit more kind of context on that, when Lyons Road is going to be, it's in the 5-year plan, it will be widened from 2 lanes to 4 lanes. The entire Whitworth South project will represent about 4% of that additional capacity, or if you want to look at it as a 4-lane section, it's actually about 2%. So it is a fairly minimal impact to the roadway network. So no new deficiencies were created as a result of this Whitworth South project, and because of that, this project meets traffic performance standards. It meets Article 12 of the Unified Land Development Code, and projects that are certified, they cannot get certified by your staff unless we meet that requirement of Article 12 and the traffic performance standards. So one final item I do want to point out, because of the elimination of the Boca Raton Achievement Center, because that is essentially being removed, this additional 37 units ends up actually being a reduction of overall traffic impact kind of in the area wide. It's a reduction of 584 trips if you look at the additional 37 units that are being added and compare that to what the school, the 300-student school, would have created. Additionally, the peak hour impacts, there's even a way bigger difference on that. Schools, as you know, are very intense in the AM peak hour because that's when everyone's arriving and leaving. The abandonment of that Boca Raton Achievement Center actually has more AM peak hour trips associated with that school than the entire Whitworth South project does in the AM peak hour. So overall, from a traffic impact, these additional 37 units with the elimination of the Boca Raton is actually an overall reduction. I'm certainly happy to answer any other questions at the conclusion of the presentation. Is that it? No.
Which has been concluded.
Okay.
Thank you. Does staff have anything to add?
Nothing additional to add. We have our staff report. Staff did receive this application. There is an increase in density by 37 units. So there are 37 more units coming to the property for a total of 1,177
Excuse me, Wendy,
units.
to clarify, just so I heard properly, they're age-restricted units?
They are age-restricted units.
Thank you.
Yeah. So in order to add the 37 units, they're adding the 37 preserved parcels for the development. And staff analyzed it on the 8 standards that we have in the code and found our recommendation to be approval.
Thank you. And before we go on, we need to take disclosures. Is that, Mr. Stone, was that what you were looking for?
It's one of the two things.
Okay, what was the other?
I noticed in the applicant's presentation that their slide indicated the release of preservation was for 18 plus acres, but I just wanted staff to confirm that it's actually for 14.827 acres.
14.827 is what we have.
I misspoke, my apologies.
Thank you. Okay, disclosures. We'll start with Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've had verbal communication in a meeting with Cliff Hertz and Kevin Rattery. Also, I've had email correspondence.
Thank you. And that's for 8 and 9, correct?
9.
It's for 9, I'm sorry. Whitworth.
Thank you.
Oh, you're right. I guess Boca Achievement is
It says
connected.
disclosures on 8 and 9.
Yes,
So
thank you, Madam Mayor.
most often it was probably just together, so. Commissioner Weiss?
Thank you, Mayor. On items 8 and 9, I had verbal communication with Cliff Hertz, Kevin Rattery, and email correspondence been filed with the clerk.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. For 8 and 9, I've had verbal communications with Andrea Virgin, with Cliff Hertz, Kevin Rattery, Alan Goldstein, Neil Commissaro. No site visit, and emails have been received and filed with the clerk.
Thank you. On 8 and 9, I've had written correspondence has been filed with the clerk and verbal communications with Cliff Hertz, Kevin Rattery, and Brian Seymour. Thank you. Commissioner Woodward?
I had verbal communication with Cliff Hertz and Kevin Rattery and email correspondence.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On District 5, on 8 and 9 together, I've had written communications that have been filed and verbal communications with Cliff Hertz and Kevin Rattery.
Thank you. Commissioner Flores?
I don't know, I'm not feeling the love. I got no disclosures.
No worries. That happens sometimes. All right, do we have any public comment on this? We have no comment cards. Do we have any comments from our commissioners? Commissioner Sachs?
Thank you. Just finishing my banana. First, I want to thank the staff for moving this from consent to regular agenda. I questioned it during the agenda review, and at some point I'd like to have disclosure from the staff as to why it was even on consent, but that's another day. So today I want to thank you for putting it on regular agenda where it belongs. I'd like to ask a couple of questions, if I could, of Mr. Rattery, the Vice President here. Thank you for your presentation. And again, GL is the largest developer in the Ag Reserve. As you know, Mr. Ryder, we have a sort of a rule that has occurred since it was developed in the 90s about 60-40. And what was the reason that we had, because I know you've been around for a number of years, although you're very young, 60-40. Could you explain to us the concept that was originally planned with the 60-40 rule?
Yes, ma'am. I'm going to back up a little and say under the 1980 comprehensive plan, there were 2 development options in the agriculture reserve known as the agriculture preserve area back then. 1 unit per 5 acres, and an 80-20, which was for every acre you build on, you preserve 4 acres of land. The development of the master plan that was initiated by the then Board of County Commissioners, went out to a consultant. And the consultant came back with a series of recommendations to promote the preservation of land in the ag reserve. The first of that was the bond, that go to the residents of the county and ask for, in this case, a $200 million bond for purposes of acquisition of land, not only in the agriculture reserve, but also elsewhere in the county. And also as a companion item to the bond to also assist in the preservation of land in the agriculture reserve area.
And that was paid by all the taxpayers in the county, not just those in the ag reserve.
Yes, ma'am. It was a bond referendum to the entirety of Palm Beach County.
And the purpose of the bond was to?
Acquire property within the agriculture reserve area for the county, I should clarify, for the county to acquire property within the agriculture reserve area for the purposes of perpetuation of the use of that property, primarily agricultural based, as well as to ensure that that property would not be developed in the future.
And was that,
I'm sorry.
was that bond also used to purchase land elsewhere in the county?
Yes, ma'am.
And was the term agricultural reserve ever included in the bond language?
No, ma'am.
Thank you.
But did we buy land? And I'm looking at staff, and I'm not looking at my colleague. Part of that land, part of the bond was to purchase land in what other areas of the county?
$100 million went to purchase land in the ag reserve, and there was $50 million that went to buy environmentally sensitive lands.
So it's 150 million. 100, did you say 100 million for ag and 50 for water preservation, did you say?
For environmental areas
Environmental
outside
sensitive.
the ag reserve. Patrick Ritter might want to
Okay.
expand on that.
And there's another 50 million there too.
50 million was used for purchases in our natural areas collection that we have right now. I don't have the specific properties purchased. We could provide that to the board
No, it's okay.
if you wanted it.
I just want to make sure that it's, and you said it very well, that the bond money paid for by the citizens of the entire county, 100 million for the preservation of agriculture against development in the ag reserve. Very well. Thank you, sir. Go right ahead, Mr. Adder.
So as a result of the consultant's report back to the county, an additional development option was created known as the 60/40. And effectively what the 60/40 did was it said for every acre that you develop, you have to preserve an acre and a half of land. The base density of 1 unit per acre is then applied to the totality of the development. So to put it in simple math terms, if you have a development of 200 acres, you would need a preserve of 300 acres. The totality would be 500 acres. So those 500 units could be built on the development parcel, the 200 acres. The 300 acres would then be subject to a recorded conservation easement in favor of the county.
So in other words, to make it real simple for someone who didn't major in math, 100 acres is purchased by a developer for development, which is good. 40% can be developed, 60% has to be open land.
Yes, ma'am. The only thing that I would say to make sure the record is clear is there is a minimum acreage threshold for a 60/40 of 250 acres in its totality. So
Right.
you couldn't really have 100, but you could do a 250, correct?
Sounds good to me. Okay, so, and the whole idea, as you stated, is to preserve and promote open space, and I'm reading from it, enhance agriculture, environmental, and water resources, is the whole idea behind the $200 million bond.
$150 million bond, yep.
Okay, moving on, go right ahead. So
The master plan went to the board. The board approved the master plan. They did not adopt the master plan as part of the comp plan, but they approved the master plan concepts, and then the primary concepts of that plan came before the board in the form of comprehensive plan text changes and unified land development code text changes to implement the 60/40, the 80/20, what uses are allowed in preservation area, the restrictions on development area, basically the nuts and bolts of how you implement that 60/40 recommendation from the master plan.
At what point did the plan allow a developer to take parcels, pieces of land from any area? I think we determined that it would had to be from the ag reserve, and buy the TDYs or the TDRs, the development rights, and use that as part of the 60/40 rule.
So the initial plan adoption required the preservation area to be a minimum size. I think it was 150 acres, if I remember correctly, that the preservation parcel itself, just the preservation piece, had to be a minimum of 150 acres. It was through subsequent code changes, put me on the spot here, I don't remember the
But it was not
exact
by
year,
this board,
but there
in other
was,
words,
there was.
right, Mr. Rattery? It wasn't by this board.
No, it was by a prior
It
board.
was a prior board.
A prior board changed those regulations because there was a push by some of the smaller landowners in the ag reserve that either were not 150 acres or contiguous to 150 acres that they could latch onto, that they were unable to preserve their land and sell their unit rights to a developer. And then, so that was a subsequent comprehensive plan change to allow parcels less than 150 acres to qualify. The uses on those properties still had to be consistent with uses allowed on the preservation pieces.
So
but
let's
the rule
take a look
itself-
at what happened with this particular development that you want us to approve. And I'm referring now to my page 10, and I wonder if you could, and I don't know if you can or not, but if you could pull it back up on the board, so as I look at it, other folks can look at it as well. And I'm referring to page 10. That may be page 10 on your PowerPoint.
Let's see if I can get there faster. I got it. Have them turn the TV over to me.
Very good. No, not, yeah, no,
Nope.
almost,
Turn it over to the staff table. Page 10 of the staff report.
correct. And it's titled 60/40 acreage tabular. Boy, and I have glasses on.
This is, here we go, right here. This one?
This is,
She's, just.
Or
if
is
you-
it the
if you don't-
presentation?
I think she's referring to my presentation,
okay.
not your presentation. So if you could pull up my presentation. Is that the one you wanted,
that's,
Commissioner?
thank you so much. I knew you'd find it. Okay, so let's take a look here. What's happening is that okay, and then the next page is page 10, Mr. Rattery. That's it, excellent. So for 1,177 acres, gross acreage, right? 100%, you are required, your company is required, to preserve 60%, which sees right down there, preserve area required 60%, 704.654 acres. Is that correct, as
Yes,
we're
ma'am.
reading down? Okay. So in other words, in order for you to get the 1,177 gross acreage in the ag reserve, you've got to preserve 704 acres. And the way you do this is by, turn the page, please, page 11 and 12. And you skipped over this very quickly, but I didn't. And I don't want the public to skip over it, because this is what has been accomplished in this, in your application for 1,000 acres in the ag reserve, is you have taken bits and pieces from various people, from various homeowners, from, you've got housing and residential structures you're going to demolish, equestrian stables, that you're going to buy their development rights, cattle and bees. All of these on page, and I know my colleagues have the same thing, page 11 and 12 are all the 44 parcels that you've taken little bits and pieces from, put them together so that you're able to accomplish the 60%. Do you think, and I know you have to answer corporate, but I'm asking this rhetorically. Do you think this is what you can sit down, sir, because I've got the vice president here. Thanks. Do you think?
I thought you were telling me to sit down.
No. You're doing very well. Do you think this is the idea and the policy and the principle of the 60-40 rule of preserving and protecting agriculture, water resources and environment and open spaces
100
by doing this?
100%.
Little bits and pieces.
100%.
Okay, thank you. Brian Kelly is your engineer?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and he's hired by your boss, by GL Homes. Have you, Brian Kelly, has he referred to our county engineer in terms of his statements that there's not going to be any traffic deficiencies with these additional units, sir? If you know, and I'm sure you do.
Those statements are part of the required traffic report, which is submitted to the county for review as part of the review of the project.
My question was, he's hired by you. He's a hired expert.
Yes, ma'am.
And do you know if he has consulted with the county's traffic expert before he made his statement that there would be no traffic deficiencies on Lyons Road?
First off, just to clarify the record, what he said was there was no new traffic deficiencies. He identified Lyons Road as a traffic deficient road.
Already?
Already.
Now,
correct.
what's interesting in your answer and in his statement is that he based that on Lyons Road being widened to 4 lanes. It is presently how many lanes, Mr. Adder?
It's 2 lanes, but you're conflating 2 issues. What his statement was the review of the traffic analysis of this particular project, the 518 units, based on the existing lane capacity. When he referred to the 4%, the 2%, he was saying just as an FYI, when the road is widened from its 2-lane to 4-lane, it represents this amount of capacity.
Could I have Mr. Kelly come forward? Sure. Now you can sit down, Mr. Adder.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Mr. Kelly, this is a big issue. Lyons Road is a big issue. And I see our chief engineer sitting in the back, and thank you, sir, for all you do. We go to HOAs monthly, and the biggest complaint is traffic on Lyons Road and how dangerous it is. You're a traffic engineer, you come from a good company. Can you say today that the addition of these 518 units is not going to cause additional traffic on Lyons Road as it exists today with 2 lanes?
Hold on one second. Our attorney has turned his light on, Mr. Stone.
More than welcome to answer. I just wanted to clarify that this application before you is not for the full 500 and something units. It's only for the addition of the 37 units. That's all.
But I believe that his testimony today was related to the 518 units that he was talking about. He was talking about the entire Whitworth South, and I understand that there's an additional couple acres, right? But he was referring in his testimony to 518 on Whitworth South. And so that's what I'm referring to.
Absolutely. I just wanted to clarify limiting the application itself to what it is, but you're absolutely right. He did more broadly refer to those large
Thank you,
numbers.
sir.
And I'll help clarify that your question. I'll clarify the answer, I should say. So yes, the traffic study we did was, even though we have an approval for the 481 units that's already been approved by this board, is the traffic study included the additional 37 plus the existing approval of the 481 for that 518 units. Yes, trips are generated by this site that add traffic to Lyons Road. However, by the Palm Beach County Traffic Performance Standard, we are not creating any new deficiency. The other item I do want to add is the 37 units that are, actually is what's being requested, that is what's considered, it would be considered a de minimis or insignificant impact by the Palm Beach County traffic performance standards.
So your testimony today, based on your studies, is that the Whitworth South 518 units is not going to produce any additional traffic on the existing two-lane Lyons Road today.
I want to make clear, it's adding traffic, it's not adding any new failures. It's obviously
Adding
there's-
traffic, okay, I'm not an expert. It's adding traffic, and the traffic is flowing, so it's not a problem, right? Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Appreciate it. And then one other thing, you said the School of Autism would generate there's nothing there. There's nothing there, is there? Have you been to the School of Autism, sir?
I'm familiar with the site.
Because you see it on the let me. Only one of us can talk. I'm sure you've seen it on the building charts. You didn't need to be there. I apologize, but it's vacant land, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so when we're comparing traffic out of a school, we're really talking about a vacant lot and not a school, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
But
thank
as
you.
part of it being abandoned, those trips are already approved, meaning that school could have been built or could be built, and it's an existing approval within Palm Beach County. So as part of this application, that approval is being removed. So those, instead of those 700 plus trips that school would have generated, those are now being taken offline, and the additional 37 units is much, much less than what that school would
Did you
generate.
know that that was not a school, that was a school of autism, and many of the students would have lived there, so there wouldn't necessarily be trips in and out as you would have in elementary school. So I don't know where you're getting these numbers from, but I think it's disingenuous, sir. And as an expert in this, I really don't honestly believe that those numbers would be correct. But thank you anyways. Thank you. Thank you. Has our county attorney reviewed this, our county engineer? I know our county attorney has. Sir?
Good morning. Yes, we have reviewed this.
And in
approved it.
your expert opinion, this Whitworth South of 518 units would add traffic to Lyons Road?
Correct. It will add traffic.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you very much.
Vice Mayor Baxter.
Thank you, Mayor. It's for the attorney. Are we allowed to turn down this project based on traffic?
Based on the statute, if they meet the traffic standards and traffic concurrency as defined in the comp plan and as reviewed by staff, that cannot be the sole basis for
And
your
does
denial.
this?
Sorry?
And does this project do that?
I believe staff has recommended approval based on that standard.
So, again, this is quasi judicial.
Sure, there's, I think, 8 different standards of approval. One of them relates to the traffic, which is the adequate public facilities. If the board were to find that any of the other standards hadn't been met based on competent substantial evidence, there would be an avenue for denial. But if the sole basis for denial is on traffic issues, based on the fact that staff has determined that traffic has been satisfied, then that would be prohibited.
And then, other than the applicants, are there other expert testimony here that would show some competent substantial evidence that
To
would
the
give
contrary?
us to the contrary?
I haven't heard any, and I'm not aware of any that were included in the staff report.
Thank you.
Commissioner Sacks.
Look, let me just say to my colleagues, I like GL Homes. It's the biggest developer in the Ag Reserve. They build a quality home. What I'm saying is not now. Wait until Lyons Road is expanded to 4. I have 2 lanes on Lyons Road, and it is damn dangerous. I don't even have FP&L lights. Do you know we have no street lights? And how many thousands of houses do we have? Units, beautiful units, wealthy units. And I mean, these folks are buying these houses, $1, $2, $3 million houses. How many cars do you think they have? You think they take public transportation? Heck no. In fact, we don't even have buses. We don't even have public transportation on Lyons Road. You got to get in your car, you got to take one kid here. I don't want to go into it. I'm just going to say this to my colleagues, to staff, to the public, to the people who travel on Lyons Road. FDOT is working on Atlantic Avenue. It's going to take a year or 2 or 3, maybe 4. We are working on Lyons Road, and we still do not have a safe road. Wait, GL. Can you just wait until we have the infrastructure in place? That's all I'm asking. And you build a nice house, but give the people a chance to drive on that road. You're not paying to widen it. All the taxpayers in this county are paying to widen that road. Give us, the taxpayers, a chance to widen the road. Give the taxpayers a chance to pay FP&L to put traffic lights, put street lights. Then go ahead and build some more beautiful houses. Right now, I've often said the shovel doesn't hit the ground until the infrastructure is in place. This is premature. This is not right to the people who live on Lyons Road, and it's not right to the taxpayers of Palm Beach County. So you know what my opinion is on this, I think. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Baxter.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Rattery? Was that with an I? Just kidding.
No.
Just kidding. Question for you. What is your timeline for this project, out of curiosity, now that it's been mentioned?
The 481 units having been previously approved are already for sale, so we are full speed ahead. As it relates to the 37 units, I would anticipate that those probably could be under construction within about a year, but that depends on sales pace and other factors that I don't really get into.
Could you sell them last?
Well, they're at the very west end, so they are generally the last ones. The comment that I would make to this is, even under your old traffic performance standards ordinance, when it was a true concurrency system, once you got within 3 years, the project was allowed to proceed forward. And our concern is always, when commissioners ask about a timing pullback, is that we're not building the road. The county's building the road. And if the county gets delayed, we suffer from the delay because we can't move forward with those units. So this road was originally 2022 for this link, and it's now in 2025. So respectfully, since the majority of the units are approved already, we're more than happy to sell those towards the end of the project, because they are the end of the project. But I don't know if they're going to beat your Lyons Road construction, because that depends on when Lyons Road gets let.
Thank you. And for staff, I think where, Mr. Rutter, do you know where we stand as far as Lyons Road is, since it was brought up? When is it
Look at Scott
completion?
and Quasi, it's broken into 2 legs. I'll call it a south half and a north half, and I'm trying to remember which half we're doing first. That's out to bid.
The north
Yeah, we are going to do the north half first. And
Mr. Ricks, if you'd like to come to the mic, please. Mr.
Vice Mayor, members of the board, David Ricks, County Engineer. The north half, just as Quasi indicated, which is from Flavor Pick to Boynton Boulevard. Design is about done. We'll be putting up bid for this fall, winter, so under construction basically next spring, 2026. The southern half, which is from Atlantic Avenue to Flavor Pick. It's about a $16 million project, looking FY28 to get that under construction.
So not starting until FY28.
There's 2 segments, from Atlantic to Flavor Pick, FY28. From Flavor Pick to Boynton Beach Boulevard, that design is done. We're talking FY26 to start the construction work.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you. I think for staff, are we taking these items separate? Just so I understand. Okay.
Yeah.
And item 8, we will be voting on, it's the abandonment of the previous approval for the school, and to allow it to become preserved, and it's going to remain a nursery. Is that what I read in here?
Correct.
The owner does not want to move forward with the school approval, but rather remain as a nursery with restrictive uses as a preserve.
Correct.
Okay, could I go ahead and move item 8?
I have a motion from Commissioner Woodward, a second from Commissioner Weiss. All in favor? Aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? See that the motion carries 6-1 for
Okay.
item number 8.
And could I clarify on item number 9? The previous 400 and change units, that's a previous approval. This is just for 37 units to be added to the previous approval.
Correct.
Right. And all of the preserve requirements have been met? You are recommending approval for this?
Correct.
Okay, I'd like to go,
A, B, C, and D.
so I'd like to make a motion to approve item 9, A, B, C, and D.
I have a motion from Commissioner Woodward, a second from Commissioner Weiss. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
See that the motion carries 6-1. Mr. Flores gave me the thumbs up. Thank you.
Thank you,
Commissioner
Commissioners.
Flores, sorry. All righty, so now we are technically...
Excuse me, Mayor.
Sir,
I have one manner of housekeeping.
Sure.
If we could please restate the agenda vote for the adoption of the agenda for the benefit of the clerk.
oh, we did that, but okay, motion, so you need a motion to adopt the agenda as amended?
Just the restate of the maker, the seconder, and
It
the
was Sachs
7-0.
and Weiss. Sachs made the motion and Weiss seconded it, and the vote was 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Wendy. I thought we did that already. Okay, so now we are at the end of the consent agenda. We are on the regular agenda. The first item on our regular agenda would be item number 13, which is the Sherbrooke Center. And I do believe we have disclosures and cards. Why don't we take disclosures first? Commissioner Flores, disclosures on item number 13.
No disclosures.
Thank you.
Oh, join in that, no disclosure?
Commissioner Sachs?
13.
No disclosures?
I have written correspondence that I've filed with the clerk. That would be the mayor and vice mayor.
We're only doing 13 for
Correct.
clarification. I have had verbal communication with Jay Huber, Zachary Todd, Jason Lang, Susan Berman, Ricardo Matos, Kathleen Salvo. No site visit, and emails have been received and filed with the clerk.
Thank you.
Of course.
Missing a page.
Number 13.
Commissioner Weiss.
Thank you. I had verbal communications with Jay Huber, Zachary Todd, and Jason Lang.
Thank you. And Commissioner Powell.
No disclosure.
Thank you. Okay, we've taken care of disclosures. We have 3 cards. Would staff like to do a presentation? Would the board like a presentation from the staff?
Can we have a brief?
We have the applicant here as well. Usually they start.
Perfect. Would the applicant like to come to the podium? Okay.
Ready? Hello, this is Zachary Todd. I'm with HSQ Group, 1001 Yamato Road in Boca Raton. Also representing us on this project is Brian Kelly, who you may know. Also, Jason Lang is here, representative of Primrose Schools, to discuss this project. So here is a brief presentation. This is the northeast corner of Lantana and Lyons Road, the Sherbrooke Center. And proposed is Primrose School. It is a daycare facility operating the standard 5 days a week with standard drop-off and pickup. So just an overall view of the site. It seems, Lyons Road is kind of a big topic of a as you've seen from the previous presentations. This is northeast corner of Lantana and Lyons Road. There is self-storage, dollar store, tire store, and a bank that were previously developed. We are looking at the last remaining parcel on the northeast corner of this to put in the daycare facility. And this is along Aquarius Boulevard, which is just east of Lyons Road. And here's a kind of an overview of the site plan overlaid on the aerial. So this is the final site plan, which staff has approved. This overall area was approved for 19,800 feet of retail. This is proposing a daycare facility. And since the topic of traffic has come up, the retail facility from the traffic center, with this daycare facility being proposed, we're saving roughly 6,000 additional trips with this, just based on the traffic volumes and the traffic study completed. And again, Brian is here to touch on kind of the specifics of that if required. Just another note on this, we're not modifying any of the entryways. All of these would utilize the existing and would fit in with this. So that's the existing entry off of Lyons, off Lantana, and then off of Aquarius. Another item to note, we will be adding back in per code the buffer. So along Aquarius on the northeast corner, right now if you go to the site, there's limited trees, kind of a clear view. We'll be adding in that buffer to kind of provide a, some nice shade and blocking the building from Aquarius. Another note is we're not going to be proposing any signs. Here's kind of a graphic of the current monument signs within the area. All of the signs would be mounted to the building, so not kind of taking up space in that regard as well. Let me just get down here. So here's kind of an overview. Again, this site was approved for 19,800 feet of retail. We're proposing a roughly 14,000 square foot daycare facility. Again, as noted, we're providing a buffer to, improve the facade along Aquarius, and as well, overall reducing kind of the trips from what was approved. And as noted, staff supports this. Here's kind of a typical rendering of the view would be for this. And then diving in, this is what the view would have been for the retail facility had that been approved. So we're kind of improving that view from Aquarius and not seeing the back of the building, as you can see on this graphic. Here's kind of another of the retail that could have been in there. So that's the end of our presentation. Brian Kelly is here to mention any traffic items. I know they're, a big topic of discussion is the current traffic on Aquarius and Lyons Road as it relates to Woodlands Middle. We've, as mentioned, discussed with some of the commissioners and as well reached out to some of the residents in the adjacent neighborhood. So that concludes our presentation. If there's any questions.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We do have some cards on this. We're going to go ahead and take those at this time.
We have 4 cards: Christopher Fayed, Bridget Pasargas, Teresa Basic, and Kathleen Salvo. We have 2 microphones. You can come on up.
We have 2 microphones, so you can come to each names that are called.
And there's the clock. You have 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Can I go ahead? Hi, my name is Christopher Fayad, and I live at 8547 Lake Point Court, Lakewood, Florida, 33467. And I thank you for the opportunity. A couple of things. I know the traffic is a big issue on Lyons Road and Lantana. I've lived there for 25 years. 4 kids. I have a lot of schools around me, just now developing. Florida is exploding with population. And I understand we need more homes, more schools, and stuff like that. But safety is a concern. The homeowners getting out onto the main arteries like Lantana and Lyons, it's a problem without traffic lights. So that's what I want to say, that it's dangerous for myself, I'm getting older, and also the kids that are coming into that development as well, their mothers, and and leaving us as well without lights. Then there's the autism school right across the road on Lantana, and I go there and I see people parking on turning lanes actually to get into the autism school on the side of the roads. And when they put that big school there, they put lights and everything for them, for the big high school that just opened, but we didn't get any lights at all. So in the morning I'm trying to get out, it's dangerous. I have to look and, it's dangerous for me to get out there on that road. So I just want to say that I'm surprised that it passed the first meeting at the last one, and I'm glad it's brought up today about the safety and the explosion of population, and something needs to be done about traffic. I understand you can go there and see traffic is flowing, yes, but the residents in there has to be able to get out. And that's what I really want to say, and I thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Teresa Zabik. I live at 5527 Adair Way, Lake Worth, in the Lakes of Showbrook. I'm going to shift my presentation around a little bit, and I do have a packet to leave with you guys afterwards. However, I want to first address a concern. When I was doing research, I was looking at the traffic counts for Lyons Road, since that's the #1 step in a process for development. And what I discovered was there have been no traffic counts on Lyons Road between Lake Worth Road and Lantana since 2020. None. Every year, as the gentleman proposed, the county is supposed to do a traffic count in that area. It's a significant concern. Obviously, it's a very big concern in the entire proposal for this daycare. Since 2020, just to give you a quick overview, there's the Garcia High School there. There's the addition of a new fire station coming in. There's the proposed daycare, and there's already Woodlands Middle School. Again, highly concerning that there are no traffic counts since 2020 in one of the most important thoroughfares from Lake Worth Road to Lantana Road. The additional information I'd like to share is specifically regarding the intersection of Lyons Road and Lantana. There was approximately 32 crash events in 2023 at that particular intersection. A third of those occurred in the northeast quadrant, which is the same quadrant where the proposed daycare site is proposed. That's a significant number of accidents. That's approximately 3 accidents per month at that intersection. The other element I'd like to bring in as far as traffic, and the gentleman had a very nice slide showing the blue arrows coming in off of Lyons and the one onto the shopping center. The main focus that I think he missed was the access point that's going to be utilized, doggone it, the most is going to be Aquarius Boulevard West. There's approximately 10 patterns of traffic in that exact intersection. So it's really, really a potential issue. Finally, I just want to say, I think this lack of oversight in the expansion of Lyons Road and the willingness or lack of willingness to add wider sidewalks, wider bike lanes, and guardrails has basically potentially caused a student's life. And I think that's super important to consider with all aspects of Lyons Road, particularly between Lake Worth and Lantana. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you.
Go right ahead.
Excuse me, we can't hear. The microphones aren't working too well with you guys. And did they call my name? Because we're the only 4 people that are going to talk?
Correct.
Anyway, I'm Kathleen Salvo. Don't start the clock until I got to justify this. We don't have a problem with the application. We have a problem with the neighborhood. We had a fatality there back in January. And we were hoping that we can get some input or some help from the people that are here today to help us make it safer. I have numbers. We process 4,335 people a day. We have two schools. One is the middle school and one is the great new high school. It's state-of-the-art that has already run at a capacity. It's 2,500 students, and they're going to graduate 735 this coming year. So we have two different times of when they go in and when they go out. 7:30 to 2:45 is the high school, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. is the middle school. And as I said, in these two time zones, we process 4,035 children. We are not against the application, but I wish you would put it on hold until we clean up the mess. We are 4 lanes, but these 4 lanes are already obsolete because we put too much stuff on this road. So we have accidents on that corner, and they're there all the time. What we need is that I have 3,039 oppositions to the safety here, and they were signed by, I wish Teresa would have said all this because there's too much to say in the time. It was signed by the change.org. At the time of the accidents, the middle school students, 8th graders, had enough of sense, they were the adult in the room, to sign this petition. And I wish you would go on that site, and these are the people that are in opposition of this, adding this, because they told all the problems that we have here. And since then, nothing has been done. We haven't done nothing. We haven't, they say they're working on it. I've been working on it as an army of one. But as the proverb goes, it takes a village, to take care of these children. And nobody has been giving us any cooperation. We hear of studies that are being done, and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. I'm working with the engineering department, and they've been great. Everything I bring something to their attention, they do. But what we need to do, I want to give you a visualization of the area. High school, middle school, stuck together with only the canal in between, which is a very skinny canal. It's the same campus. We would like the lights to go on 20 miles an hour. When I have such a laryngitis. We would like the lights to go on 20 miles an hour when both these schools go in and both these schools go out. So we lower them to 20 miles an hour, because once that 20 miles is finished, they go to 45. And believe me, they can't wait to achieve that 45 miles. And that's exactly where that child was killed. Can Chris give me his?
Thank you. We have one more card.
Okay, can I get it? Yeah, because I just want to set the stage. So we would like the, I'm sorry.
Your time is up. The next person.
There is no next person. Can I just take his minutes?
Bridget Pasargas?
The courtesy of taking
Bridget?
your minutes?
Oh,
can I get, Mildred, can I get
No,
your?
I'm sorry, that's not how it works.
So we can't do that?
You have your 3 minutes. Come on up.
Oh, but she doesn't have the things to say. Okay, so we need your help in making the area safer.
Thank you.
And put this on hold until we
Thank you.
can make the area safer. Okay.
Miss Bridget?
Bridget,
Read this part here.
Bridget, read that here.
Something I didn't get to.
Give me this sentence right here.
All the way down there?
Yeah.
Commissioner Weiss, your light is on. Do you have a question for staff? Okay. And Vice Mayor comments also? All right.
My name is Bridget Pasargas, and I live at 8389 Blue Cypress Drive, Lake West, Florida, 33467. I'm totally against the Sherbrooke Center application. It will be difficult and dangerous to live in the area. Now, I want to pick up on what I'm reading here. For the leaders of Palm Beach County, now is not the time for excuses. Now is not the time to say should have, could have, would have, and now should the time for standing behind absolute policies of the past. Palm Beach County has changed, especially regarding population growth and traffic conditions. Lyons Road is a stay forward and clear example of this concern, and unfortunately it may have cost a child his life. Now it is the time to take action and to everything possible to prevent another student from being injured or killed. As the map previously shows, there will potentially be 4 schools on Lyons in addition to a new fire station and additional residential developments further south of Lantana on Lyons Road. The combination of all these elements will produce a significant increase in traffic between Lake Worth Road and Lantana Road. We are advocating for and imploring this board to request the county to perform an in-depth traffic study regarding Lyons Road from Lake Worth Road to Lantana Road, and from the study and input from the community, strategies, steps to be implemented to increase the safety in this entire area. What commitments are you, as the leaders of Palm Beach County, willing to make today to ensure these life-threatening issues are addressed prior to the opening of schools this fall, so another student, parent, teacher, or friend will not have to endure another preventable tragedy similar to this year? Thank you.
Commissioner Weiss, your light is on.
Thank you, Mayor. So I think there's a couple of things we're talking about today. So I would like to address the issue, the safety issue, which does not involve this application. I had the opportunity to meet with the Coggin family last week, and I have, since that meeting, that's a family whose son was killed when he fell into the roadway on his bike. And obviously, it's a tragedy. It's a real tragedy. And so I have requested from engineering that they perform a study on that section of roadway, specifically at the request of the family as it relates to the bridge over the canal. That's a choke point, and the pathway can be moved on the other side of the bridge, so the kids can stay away from the roadway at that point. We have also, as a board, we have directed staff to move forward with an ordinance that allows for the speed cameras to be put in place, and I know they're studying that location those are automatic cameras that will take pictures, and if people are found in violation of the speed, they'll be sent a ticket. And we've seen, the studies have shown a reduction in speeding over 90% in those areas where those cameras go in. And additionally, the repeat offenders go down significantly, like over 93%, if I recall the information that was given to us. So I can tell you, I've heard directly from the family, and it's something certainly on my agenda. I know it's on Commissioner Baxter's agenda as well. We can't talk about these things unless we're in sunshine. But I know the family has also reached out to her office as well. But I do want to say to the folks that came in and spoke, we do hear you, and we are concerned. I'm also very concerned about the people that are using Aquarius to drop off their kids. That's not appropriate. And I will be asking the school board and the school system to do something about that. Kids should not be being dropped off down the road and then walking up that roadway. That roadway is not designed for that to happen. So I just want to put that aside. As it relates to this project actually would reduce traffic going into that shopping center based on what is allowed there already. This is a significant reduction in trips. The other thing I think is important to note about a project like this, it's not in the same way a school where everybody comes at the same time. This is a daycare center. They usually come over a period of hours to drop off and a period of hours to pick up. Usually after for many parents, it's after the workday is ended. So with that, I don't have an issue with this project, but I am interested to hear where the district commissioner stands on it.
Vice Mayor Baxter.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Commissioner Weiss, for your comments. I don't think anyone likes hearing about the loss of a child. It's heartbreaking. So we've also been in contact with traffic and engineering, David Rick's office, in regards to safety and the concerns of the children. To mimic what Commissioner Weiss has said, we want it to be as safe as possible. I also had a similar idea of reaching out to the school board. I think parents are looking for alternatives. There's a middle school and a high school not far from here, causing some concern with residents and the drop-off and pickup of these students. And so I think I have reached out to the school board member of the area, Marcia Andrews, and hopefully we'll do a site visit and see, take a look for ourselves and see what is going on. This isn't unique. A lot of schools seem to have some issues with pickup and drop off. I don't know that we'll be able to solve that here with this applicant's project, and I do feel bad for the applicant because I do feel they're taking a brunt of a bigger problem. As somebody who has a 6-year-old, I do understand how drop off and pickup of a daycare happens, and very recently have had to do that. I'm glad I don't anymore. About a preschool or a daycare. But lastly, I will note in the same things I pointed out in the previous item to the attorney, would you like to comment? This is also quasi-judicial?
Yes, it's quasi-judicial, meaning that approval or denial has to be based on the 8 standards of approval.
And has this applicant met those standards?
According to staff, yes.
And so we are not really able to say no without competent substantial evidence proving otherwise?
Correct.
Without a great risk to the taxpayers of us getting sued for saying no?
Yes.
It's the easiest way to say it, trying to summarize. But so we really don't have the ability when we have a plan and an applicant meets all those standards, right?
Right,
Standards.
unless you believe that there is competent substantial evidence supporting a finding that one of the standards hasn't been met, or that one of the standards, or that all of the standards haven't been satisfied.
Thank you. And so with that in mind, understanding there are safety concerns, understand this is a bigger school issue, I think, even in the local area. I do appreciate to the applicant reducing the potential of 6,000 trips from what is already allowed to what this would allow. Thank you for that. There are still safety concerns, but a lot less with a daycare, preschool type of situation, because a parent has to physically walk that child in. It's not a drop-off, it's not a pickup, they have to park. And how many, could you remind me how many parking spots were allocated to this?
Nancy, do you have that slide? Or Daisy, with the parking spaces? It has adequate parking and drop-off for the 214 kids built in.
And I believe there was around 50 parking spots, were there not?
I believe there were.
And that's quite a bit for 200 students, especially over a several hour span. I know the preschool where I was dropping off only had 20 to 30, and it seemed like a lot more students than that, and it was never always full. So this was, or it was not really full much at all, if ever. I can't find a reason without competent substantial evidence to turn this down. So I will make the motion to approve, but still, I think staff has heard Commissioner Weiss, myself, and unless the board objects, to really kind of look into the surrounding road and safety of this area for these students, because we don't want this to happen again.
Thank you. So I have a motion from the Vice Mayor and a second from Commissioner Weiss. Commissioner Sachs, your light is on, and then Commissioner Flores.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Commissioner Weiss, you're wonderful. Thank you so much for doing that, reaching out to the family, and that is difficult. That is difficult. But you're probably one of the most compassionate people I know, and if anybody would do it well, you would. Thank you for that. We have a committee, and I don't think many of us know about it because we haven't been informed of it. But it's a committee made up of our assistant county engineer named Joanne Keller, and she works with the school district, okay? She works with the school district when it comes to getting in and out of schools. And I would like my colleagues to reach out to her because she's got a study that looks at every school in the county and how parents are able to get in and out. And that will help. It's not necessarily the school board, but it's a school district and our engineers and thank you, Joanne. She and I have visited a number of schools, and we're making some plans to change things around. We are paradise, and everybody wants to live here. But if we don't handle ourselves well with not lots of development, but smart development, we're going to turn into a place where nobody wants to live. And so I cannot go along with a project where the public doesn't like it. And I don't think that it's a bad project. I think it's a good project. I've always advocated for anything to help with the little kids. I have a couple of them at home, and I know that it's nice to drive them to someplace for the day. But this, not now, not now. Give Lyons Road a chance to develop into a safe thoroughfare. We have no guardrails for our bicyclists. We have very few bicycle lanes, very few. And the ones that we have are not safe. I see bicyclists on our thoroughways, and they're right next to me as I drive by. It's dangerous. And I cannot support a development until the roads are ready for it, till our infrastructure is ready for it. It's a good project. I look forward to it coming in one day, but not today. Give engineering, give our planning zoning staff, give our construction people time. We have a transportation plan that we're looking at today. If we didn't have any problems with the roads, why would we have to spend money on an expert to tell us we have bad roads? We have bad roads. Maybe they were good 20 years ago, but not today. Not with more development. Good development, wrong timing. Give it some time for the county to catch up, and we'd be more than happy to entertain it. As for me, I represent the people, and it is not compatible with the people in that area. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Commissioner Flores.
I want to start with staff. There is 20-mile-an-hour speed markers right now for the two schools, correct? Or just for the middle school?
Typically, the schools have they have those signs and the blink. Often they have blinking lights when
But do they
school is
currently-
drop-off pickup to slow down. But I think the resident had a valid point. We haven't met with the school district on the timing of the two different schools. And from experience, I know that when the school is in Green Acres, if you go down Lake Worth Road and you go by that middle school right there, and then the light, you pass that point where suddenly you don't have to be 20 miles an hour anymore, people do speed up. So I think that we're going to add that to our conversation with the school district on the timing.
But are we confirmed that those lights are on? I mean, that they're there?
It's for the middle school.
Because I thought one of the,
Hi, good morning, Scott Cantor with Land Development. Aquarius does have the 20-mile-an-hour blinkers.
Both
for
schools.
For the school zone,
But
for the middle.
Lions.
I'm checking, Lions
and the
is,
reason I'm asking is because during my time in Green Acres, LC Swaim did not have a 20-mile-an-hour speed zone, and we had to request one. So I just want to confirm with you that those 20-mile-an-hour zones are actually up
Lions does as well.
on both schools.
Definitely the middle. Quasi do,
High schools, I'm not sure if they do have. speed
Okay,
So we'll continue to
can you get
confirm.
back to me on
Yes,
this, please?
absolutely,
All
Commissioner.
right, and to echo Commissioner Weiss's comments, that we are looking for an ordinance to implement camera system for the speed zone. So I am probably the one commissioner that probably drives the most through this particular area. I'm constantly here. I used to go to that LA Fitness. That used to be my LA Fitness for a very long time. I am going to vote for this project, and I do want to acknowledge the individuals that came here today. And I want to say thank you for coming out and voicing your opinion, because I don't think this is a bad project, but I think you guys are on the right path. I think we have to keep our people safe. And how do we do that? Commissioner Weiss has already talked about some implementations that we are going to be discussing here in the near future regarding schools. We have to do better with the sidewalks and where the sidewalks are located and how kids cross that street, especially when it pertains to the high school. The majority of the kids that go to that high school live across the street in those neighborhoods. So they have to cross lines. Do we know if there's crossing guards in front of the schools? What was that? Exactly. So we have to look at that. The other thing that we have to look at that I think it's a major concern that the county should get involved with is distribution of students into the different schools. And I'll give you an example. Garcia High School now takes the most students from Green Acres. In Green Acres, our kids go to 5 different high schools. Think about this. Green Acres, our kids go to 5 different high schools. Yet, in Green Acres, we have the largest high school in the county, John I. Leonard. Why are our kids not going to John I. Leonard? Garcia High School also takes a lot of kids from Boynton Beach. If you think about it, these are trips that are coming from out of different pockets into a neighborhood like Lyons Road. So we have to really work with the school district about how we distribute our kids and where our kids go to. It's being politicized based on the grades of the schools, and neighborhoods refusing to want to send their kids to the school closest to them. So we have a major issue there. We really have to work with the school district on doing better on distributing kids and creating more trips for parents that have, and I'll give you a perfect example. I had to, 3 years ago before Garcia High School opened, I had to lobby and get all the parents rallied up because they wanted to send kids from Riverbridge, which less than a half a mile, they have Palm Beach Central. They wanted to send them to Garcia High School. That makes no sense. When you have a high school that's half a mile down the road, you're going to send them to, imagine that trip every single morning for a parent or for the kid. Most of these kids drive. So when we talk about the committee that Commissioner Sachs mentioned, I think this has to be a major topic because we are creating more traffic every single morning and every single afternoon where we shouldn't. High schools and middle schools and elementary school should be community-based. It should be your neighbors. You shouldn't be going, across town, across the county, maybe passing 2 municipalities in the way to go to your high school. So I think this is an issue that we really have to take up with the school district, because it is affecting our traffic patterns every single morning.
Thank you. Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you, Mayor. My question would be for staff on the previous approval that was on this from 2019. What was approved and could be allowed today without coming back to us?
For the site, for the Sherbrooke Center, almost 20,000 square feet of retail use. And this will be a 13,500 square foot daycare. So the analysis is that the traffic impacts were greater for the 20,000 square feet of retail than a daycare center.
So what we're being asked to do is to actually change from the previous approval and site plan of the 20,000 square feet of retail and to reduce it to the use of the daycare.
Correct.
And if we were to deny this, that they could go back to building without coming back to us, because that was already approved, that they would build the 20,000 square feet of retail.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. And I do agree with all my fellow commissioners on, this is the second application in recent months that has brought up school traffic issues that are not necessarily caused by the applicant, but what's surrounding it. And hopefully the school board's listening and we can further those conversations. And I think we already have the motion and the second.
We have the motion in the
Okay,
second, yes.
thank you.
And I agree. Traffic is an issue, obviously, as we are talking about a transportation master plan in a little bit. But the biggest problem here is the school board and the school district. So while we want to sit here and pound our chests, we don't have that ability at this point in time, but we do have the ability to reach out and chat with them and have them sit down. But they will be sitting down with us when we do the transportation master plan, because they are one of the agencies that's going to be involved with this. So I look forward to that conversation, because we need to help alleviate any traffic we can anywhere we can. Commissioner Sacks.
That's a very good suggestion, Mayor. And could I make sure that the committee that is already up and operating with Joanne Keller, representing county engineering, and with the school district, be part of that presentation to us? Because they look at every school in the county and they review the way that folks get in and out and the traffic issues that we've heard from Green Acres and the terrible things that have occurred, with accidents. So I'm sure that we will make sure that that's part of our discussion. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to be clear, make sure that I'm looking at the right project. We're looking at the creation of a daycare, am I correct?
Correct.
And with that, and I might be confused, does the school district have approval, or they have anything to do with the daycare? Okay, I think we might be mixing issues, although I think it's important. I just want to be clear before I vote.
To wrap it up, I think what the concern is that there are 2 schools in the area. And while the school district has no jurisdiction over the daycare, it behooves us as a board and as a community to make sure that any transportation issues that are generated because of the school don't have an impact on this particular parcel. So that's where the school board and our folks will chat and make sure that there are timing issues with the signals, and also we look forward to the cameras in the future, because that will help implement a speed reduction. Patrick.
Just to clarify, following up on Commissioner Powell's point, school district would have an impact on daycare centers, et cetera, that this board would approve. We don't approve schools either. They approve themselves. Now, with that, the traffic plans do come through us, and we will continue to work with the school district. The working group that Commissioner Sacks was referencing has been of great value. Last few years, a lot of good coordination. We'll bring that issue forward, but just want to be clear that approval aspect kind of works both ways.
Thank you. All right, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? See that the motion carries 6-1. Okay, we are moving on to item 14, recreational vehicle plan development regulation, and this is looking to approve the ordinance that we approved permission for first reading and whatnot. So does anyone on the board want a presentation on this? Okay. Anyone have any questions? There's no lights on. Would someone like to make a motion?
I move.
Actually, I have a first from Commissioner Woodward, a second from Vice Mayor Baxter. All in favor, all opposed, see that that motion carries 7-0. Thank you very much. Item number 15. Would anybody like a staff presentation?
No.
Okay, would someone like to make a motion?
I move item number 15.
I have a first from the Vice Mayor, a second from Commissioner Woodward. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, see that that motion carries 7-0. Next item, the County-Wide Transportation Master Plan. This is the consultant contract for professional services. I think we're going to have a shift in staff here. And I think we have a card or two on this. One speaking, one not. It's about time is all I can say. Let's get this done. Let's get this started. It should have started months ago. However, this is where we are now, and we're just looking forward to getting it done. Does anybody need a presentation? We haven't hired the consultant yet. This is how we approve the consultant. We haven't hired them yet. It's an RFP. Well, that's Patrick.
So we'll move quickly, and a representative from the entity we're recommending is here as well, if you have any questions. We'll move quickly through this. I just want to first start with a couple points. Board is certainly engaged on this topic for a while, but I want to start with a couple thank yous because we moved very, very quickly from when we made the selection of this, and I can't thank our purchasing folks enough. This is not something on the planning zoning side of the house that's done very often, and purchasing Crystal Backey, Melody, beyond extremely helpful, and want you to know that they were there to get this moving. So thank you to them, Annie Helfat and Darren working the contract up as well. So thank you to all of them to get this to you as fast as possible. I'll get through this really quickly, just give you a quick overview of what we want to talk about today. Purpose of the master plan, and as the board has established for us, this framework. So establishing multi-jurisdictional process and that planning framework for the countywide vision for transportation. Incorporating the intergovernmental coordination piece of it, which is probably the most important. It also offers that opportunity for any individual city to develop their own city plan that may be of interest to them. Identifying multimodal transportation needs. We're looking across the full spectrum of transportation aspects, using it as a foundation for the county and cities to, again, adopt their own, take their own on. 5 components with the scope. So 1 is the initiation, 2nd is the initial public engagement, 3 is the analysis, the preparation of the master plan, then presenting the draft master plan. And you'll see it in a second, but I will tell you, we have already long since begun the collection of data and information from our cities. That's out there. We weren't not waiting until the start point to do that. Going through with some dates that has brought us where we are. It was about a year ago, board gave us direction. County administrator asked and the board directed to work with the cities. We have been to city manager meetings probably every month now for the last year and had some pointed conversations initially at times, but I really want to think we're all in a good place and we're ready to work. So you can see through the listing there of meetings we have attended. And then I'm going to call your attention, if you look to September, the development of the RFP itself. And the decision was made to utilize planning staff from a representative group of our cities. And you'll see we chose North, South, Central, and then Western communities as well. So we had 7 members of planners, planning representation from there to actually do the real gory detail. And they met a number of times very, very quickly, September into early October, wrote up the scope of work. We then went to the city managers and took that RFP, presented it, talked it through with them. And I don't know if I've had the opportunity to share before, but at that meeting, showing the great value that the planners did with the work, there were very, very few tweaks that the city managers group made that became the RFP. We came back to the board early December, and again, you see some of the dates in there where we made presentations. Came back to the board early December, 2 days later, issued the RFP. You'll note that it was during the holidays, so we baked in a little extra time to establish responses and make sure we got the best ones out there. Just wanted to show you quickly landing page that we've had up for a while, not full of a lot of information yet, but we have the Transportation Master Plan webpage that it is open and will contain all the information. I will point out once we have consultant on board, one of their tasks is to develop their own website. So we'll cross-reference it and have it, but that one that the consultant will do will be the home for all the good information. Won't run through all of these on this slide, but you can see how, where we advertised, and then we move into dates. So pre-proposal meeting, submission deadline was March 4th, had 3 submittals. Took those, they were all deemed responsive. And then board took up their resolution that similar to what a number of our cities had done as well. We had selection committee, the first one, April 7th. Committee recommended to move 2 forward, shortlisted them, and bring them back for actual presentations, which was done on April 29th. I want to note the makeup of the selection committee. You had 4 county staffers, and you had 3 city managers on it. Posted the award, et cetera. Back to my thanks at the beginning. We, from when the time ran on potential challenge to notice of posting the award, contract negotiations to getting to you, little less than 2 months. So very happy to get this to you as quickly as possible. We know the board's interest. We know you want to get this done. We are, this is just that first step. Now we can get down to doing the work. So we're happy to be here right now. I'm going to hand it over to Twee to talk about some of these last points. Get this.
Good morning, Board. Twee Shutt for the record. So I'd just like to continue with Patrick's overview. The portal, we've gotten the jump start on this. We created a portal so that all the municipalities can upload all of their planning and transportation information. And to date, over half of the cities have access, and they're continuing to upload that. So this is just a snapshot of that portal. We're hoping the portal, as well as a landing page, will eventually guide the public to the consultant page, which is one of the deliverables for them to maintain a website, as well as after the plan is adopted, to actually have this ongoing communication with the city so that they can also upload this. So this will be a land use-based transportation plan. Next slide. I'd like to just highlight just the, the components of the contract. So again, there's a timeline for the contract. It starts July 1st upon approval of the board and completed by October 1st of next year. The reason why we have the 3 months flexibility, even though the consultant says they can do it in 12 months as envisioned by staff, is just for unanticipated scheduling, because we are going to be scheduling a lot of meetings and public engagement. But it's...
The Vice Mayor has a question.
Yes.
Hi. Sure. So this was one of my concerns. I feel like we constantly get requests for extensions, whether it's projects, contracts, anything going on. I want to hear from my board, because I'm more in favor of holding them to the 12 months. And then if they need more time, request more time. But I don't want to start off giving more time than the 1 year.
Do that.
I'm not a huge fan that this has already taken a year to even get to this point, but here we are. No sense in going down that path. But let's not prolong this. I mean, this is very much needed. I can't think of a singular thing probably more needed than correcting our, the roads, traffic, taking an overall holistic view of that, including land use. And so I do appreciate the work that it has taken to get here. I just want this to be a priority. Thank you.
And that would be fine. If the board wishes, it will be a very small change to Article 3 that will take it from, July 1st to July of this year to July 1st of next year. So it's a small change that can be done if the board wish.
Thank you. Commissioner Flores.
I will agree with that statement overall. I do think that we should leave some flexibility to extend 1 year, but 3 one-year extensions makes no sense to me. I mean, if we're saying this is going to take 4 years, potentially, if everything else fails, 4 years to get a master plan, then that part right there, 3 years, I think it should be one year option to renew. I mean, if it takes 4 years, we made the wrong decision.
So if I may, that was just anticipated for any additional task that the board would like to have the consultant do. And that's perfectly fine. The contract can be adjusted to eliminate that as well, as the board wish. But in case the board would like to have the ongoing contract for additional tasks, as well as it enables cities, if they would like to piggyback on it, to do their own planning as well, and their own projects for transportation. So the contract can accommodate the board's wish, whatever that may be. So.
Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you, Mayor. If I could, I agree that the initial task that we have for them, meeting with all the cities and giving us the master plan to begin with, the dates that we have, and as I understood it, a lot of this request for potential renewals, some of that did come from municipalities who may want to piggyback, or even the school district. So it would more be phase 2, 3, 4 of actually implementing the plan, seeking funding for the plan. If, there has been discussion of surtax that gets floated out there, there's a number of additional tasks that would come after the original formulation of giving us the full map of where we are and where we could be, because moving forward with, if it's going to be rerouting our prom tram buses or anything that comes from that, the renewal of the contract would be in implementing parts of the plan as we, the county, may want, or some of the municipalities may want to do. The school district, rerouting, like the discussion you had on even moving students around, could be part of addressing this. So as I understood it, we still expect that original kind of master plan that's coming to us in this time frame. The renewals would be for any task that gets revealed from the plan moving forward. Is that correct?
And if I could, understand the Vice Mayor's point on bringing the function of the master plan itself home as fast as possible. Get it, understand the point. Commissioner Flores' point, the 3 are there, as Commissioner Woodward was describing. Those are options. That's to give us as much flexibility as possible, because what we wouldn't want is the contract to run at a point when the master plan is complete and there might be additional tasks, challenges, thoughts that the board might want to take up. We got to start all over again and put an RFP out in the street and spend months doing that again. This does not mean we will exercise those. It gives us the ability to tap into it should you direct us to go do something different, something more, something additional.
Commissioner Weiss?
I'll just be very brief, because our deputy director said exactly what I was going to say. I mean, the completion date is in there at 10/1 of 26, which is still not where I wanted it, but that's what it is today. But the idea to be able to have other things without having to go back to RFP, as it's taken us a year to get to here, and saving us from having to spend any other time to create a new RFP and going back out on the street. So I'm okay with it.
It sounds like board direction is that we want this to be a year, not a year and 3 months. If in a year from now they need more time, then we have that discussion. But the extensions are so we do not have to go back out on the street for an RFP if there are additional tasks that need to be done, and the municipalities have the opportunity to piggyback on this. Did I say that clearly?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Tweet, continue.
And we will, be coming back to the board on a regular basis, and I anticipate to have just a brief project update, if not a presentation, at least something at least monthly for the board to just, to review, because we just can't just do it every 6 months. So definitely this will be an ongoing thing. But again, so the contract amount is $995,191.89. And there is an executed performance bond that is included as part of the contract to require, that's required to ensure faithful performance of the contract, as well as any of the liability insurance that we normally would ask for in a professional contract. There's the scope of services that involves a 15 task, and that is found in Exhibit A. There's attachment 1 as part of Exhibit A that has the breakdown of all the tasks by the fees of the task. Again, the full proposal from WSP is found on Exhibit B. And again, the contract will require the consultant to have public engagement strategies with all of our stakeholders. And then there'll also be a multi-departmental core group that we will be working with a consultant on accomplishing this task. So if there's any other questions, I believe.
I think we have a couple cards.
Yeah, for the general public, this is just a estimated timeline for the task that's to be completed by WSP. And I believe Sandy Amori is here in the audience from WSP, should there be any questions in particular for his team. The team makeup can be found also in the board's packet, starting on Exhibit B, starting on page 40.
Commissioner Powell, your light is on.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. May I ask a question to Sandy?
You can ask any question you'd like.
Thank you kindly. Sandy, we had conversation moments ago with regard to the timeline. Do you anticipate that it would be problematic to be able to finish this comprehensive countywide transportation master plan within a year?
Good morning, Sandy Amoris. I'm a Vice President with WSP. And no, that's our timeline, it's 12 months. We don't anticipate any issues with it.
Perfect. Follow up?
Sure.
Thank you. Have you done similar structure?
Yes, we have.
Okay.
Just closer to home, we're doing the Stitch in Atlanta, which takes a whole bunch of neighborhoods and combines it into one master plan. In Arizona, we did a state master plan that encompassed every municipality and every city in Arizona. We have in Florida alone over 200 planners that are available on this project. Our project manager is one of our planning leaders based out of Atlanta, she'll be managing the project. We don't see any difficulties in this plan. We've done it all over the country, so we don't think we have an issue.
What has been one of the most critical things that you've learned by doing these?
The most critical part is getting through the public involvement side of it, right? In Palm Beach County, there's 39 municipalities that we have to work with. We don't anticipate any issues, but if there are issues that arise, it'll be in that part of the scope. It won't be in the planning part. We have excellent planners with worldwide experience.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Commissioner Flores.
I want to know about WSP. Who are you? What have you done? I know you briefly spoke about this.
So WSP is one of the largest consultancies in the world. We have offices in over 39 countries. In the U.S. alone, we have about 38,000 employees. We do everything from design, planning, construction. The only thing we don't do is give legal advice. We leave that to the lawyers. But we started out back in I would say the turn of the century, when we were one of the designers for the New York City subway. Okay. Now we work in almost every major airport in design. Locally, we work a lot with the Florida Department of Transportation. We just won, whoever lives in the south side of the county, the 10th Street connector from the Turnpike all actually from the end of the Sawgrass 295, where we're designing that. In Palm Beach County, we have been working with Palmtran for the last 6 years. A lot of projects in Florida as a whole. We do most of the planning work for Broward County, for Miami-Dade County, and the Broward County TPO. So bridges, we do a lot of bridges, we do airports, we work in seaports. We just finished the largest shore power project in the US at Port Miami. We're hoping to do the same thing at Port Everglades very soon. And like I said, we're one of the largest consultancies in the world, and obviously one of the top 3 in the US.
This is going to encompass a lot of moving parts, and I know that you guys do planning and you've done bridges and you've done, but this is going to be a collection of ideas, a collection of input, and then we're going to have to do what's best for the county overall, and there might be some opposition. There might be municipalities wanting to slow things down. There might be things that aren't going to be exactly what we want to hear. So how do you manage that aspect? How do we? Because at the end of the day, we have to do what's best for the county, and we don't want to turn people away or have them feel like they're not included
Absolutely.
in the process.
I completely understand, and I have our principal planner, Linda Weston, who is familiar with Palm Beach County, and she'll be part of the project. And Linda, you want to? I'm not a planner.
That's fine. And then the second part of this particular question is, are you going to have someone that's going to be here based for the next year to get this project across, or are you simply going to have people coming in to visit periodically?
Okay, so we'll have, and it's not just WSP, it's the WSP team. We have a lot of local sub-consultants, and we have plenty of senior planners here in South Florida to do the job. Here in Palm Beach County, and in our offices in Broward and Miami-Dade will all be available for this project. Linda?
Thank you. Linda Weston, WSP. Thank you for approving this contract. We're looking forward to the project. I'd also like to start by complimenting the Palm Beach County team that put together the scope of work, because I feel that they baked into the project an approach to collaboration. They're beginning with holding 8 meetings countywide to gather input, and then after the recommendations have been developed, there'll be an additional 5 meetings. We'll be working with the steering committee along the way. I believe that this board has passed the composition of the steering committee, and I hear that there's going to be a core team of staff to give us advice. So a lot of it's baked in along the way. The second approach to it is the actual team members that we chose. So we included Dover Cole. They're experts in town planning. They do it all over the country. So they really, and they also, you may remember the 750 project, which was 7 counties, 50 years all over Southeast Florida. So they handled all of the outreach for that project, but they're specialists in this area. We also have Quest Corporation of America that does a lot of work for FDOT District 4, Palm Beach County, and all throughout the state. So they're our public engagement process specialists. So I hope that gives you a little bit of insight into how we plan to approach consensus building.
Correct. I mean, this is the first time I'm actually getting to speak to you, so that's why I'm asking these questions.
Mm-hmm.
And my other concern is making sure that we weren't going to mail this in, and that you were actually going to have a physical presence, and that you're going to be very involved through this process. In regards to the timeline, 12 months seems rather quickly. Do you foresee, or what could hinder this timeline? What could prevent us from getting this done in 12 months?
I really don't see anything that will prevent us from doing it in 12 months, to be honest with you.
Excellent.
I think Palm Beach County has done a great job in the procurement process. It usually is the one that takes the longest for us to do, but the planning, we do this for a living. That's all she does, all right? So I don't see this as being that big of an obstacle.
Awesome, thank you. I have one of my city managers here, Michael Bornstein from the village of Palm Springs. He's been part of this process. Would you mind coming up? I'm sorry to call on you. I know you weren't.
No, he has a card in.
He does?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, but I want to ask him, would you mind, were you part of the selection process?
Yes, sir, I was.
Would you mind telling me why you feel comfortable with this company?
Thank you, Commissioner. Mike Bornstein from the Village of Palm Springs. I'm the village manager. I had the fortune to be selected to serve on the selection committee, actually to take the place of Brian Morey, who couldn't do it from Atlantis. But we felt, at least from my perspective, that WSP possessed the resources, the skills, and the experience that fit with what we're looking at in this federated approach to a countywide transportation plan, and that among the firms that we interviewed, they brought the most competency to the proposal. And I feel very comfortable moving forward with them as a member of the selection committee. So we stand by our recommendation.
Thank you so much. And then my last couple of questions are for our staff. Will there be clearly defined schedules of deliverables tied to specific milestones, or is this just at the very end of the project, and I see some stages here, that's why I'm asking, that we will receive this, or is it at the very end we're going to receive everything?
Yes, so yes, in the same exhibit attachment 1.
I don't think your mic is on.
In attachment 1, thank you, of your packet, there's, of the exhibit A, there is a breakdown for the task. There will probably definitely be a more detailed as we meet with the consultant team of all the deliverables and the percentage. They'll be billing us based on the task completion. And again, there are going to be finite, tasks to be completed and timeline to be submitted. I mean, deliverables to be submitted and timeline to be completed throughout the project. So yes, we'll get into more of the schedule, and the schedule may change. And as far as the exhibit that you see, I don't know if you can scroll down to the contract. It's on page, timeline is on page 32 of that packet. So we can just go. So again, with this, yes, that's, I don't know if you can see that, but those tasks in the scope of work is on the column to your left, and then the phases are the colors, and those are the tasks that they'll be billing out. There'll be a working schedule that we'll need to develop with the consultant's assistance, so that we can monitor and manage this project.
Okay. And I'll end with this last question. For the public engagement and strategies, will there be any formal or metrics to capture, any formal reporting or metrics to capture stakeholders' feedback and participation levels?
Yes, so in the scope of work, if you would go further up, the consultant is responsible for documenting all the input, as well as maintaining a list of the stakeholders, as well as responsible for creating a meaningful and effective public engagement system. So they have a team of folks that are specializing in this type of work. So whether they do surveys or focus group or however that system will be, they need to engage the public, build consensus, and arrive at a recommendation to the board at various different parts of the project.
Excellent. And if this gets approved, okay, so you have a comment?
Yeah. So two things. One of our partners is Google, and we brought them in to early in the project do a sentiment analysis countywide, and we hope to actually break that down in smaller fine-grained areas. So they will be able to help us get the opinions and input from the search engines that they have the biggest in the world. So we'll be able to find out the sentiment of Palm Beach on traffic-related issues. The other, there'll be surveys that are distributed, and at each of the 8 initial public involvement events, they'll be structured to maximize the amount of participation that we can, and there will be findings and recommendations summarized after those meetings. So those are other ways that summary of the ways that we'll get input from the public.
Thank you. If you are awarded the contract here shortly, I look forward to working with you. I think this is something that the entire board and a lot of the stakeholders in the community have been looking forward to doing this work. So lean on us. I think a lot of the commissioners have a lot of input. The municipalities definitely want to be engaged. There's many other stakeholders in the community that are tracking this and want to make sure that this is successful for the community. So.
And we appreciate that, and we see the excitement of this board to get this done as quickly. If we can do it in less than 12 months, we will. It's to our advantage to finish it as fast as possible.
Thank you. And I think what you're going to get, the sentiment that you're going to get from the board is that you need to stay engaged with us. Because we haven't been able to talk to you before now, you are going to be in contact with us going forward on a regular basis. Come into our offices, meet with us individually, find out what it is that we as individual commissioners are looking for, what contacts we have in the county that you may not have thought of. I mean, that is your job, but you can't do it without data. So whoever can supply you with some of that data, you need to take advantage of. And this is a board that wants to be involved, so that is very important to all of us here.
Actually, that's important for us. The more you're involved, the easier our jobs is.
Thank you.
We appreciate that.
Vice Mayor Baxter.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A few questions for you. I understand there's a presentation, I understand there's bullet points, but overall, how would you summarize your goal of this transportation plan?
Sorry?
What would be your final goal? Where do you see this ending up?
Okay, so the final goal, first and foremost, is to deliver.
I'm sorry, would you
Talk
mind-
into the microphone,
Yes.
please.
Thank
The
you.
final goal, first and foremost, is to deliver the best possible comprehensive transportation master plan on time or ahead of schedule.
Please forgive me. Could you, not everyone knows that is watching what a comprehensive master plan entails or includes. Would
I'm
you
gonna
be
defer
more
to Linda.
specific? Thank you.
So the Comprehensive Transportation Master Plan is a foundational document which summarizes the sentiment of the community, stakeholders, and elected officials about the future growth of and shape of the transportation plan for up to the next 50 years. It can be used as the foundation for potential funding strategies, LRTPs, and tips going forward, as well as used by municipalities to work together to achieve the same vision for the county transportation system. I hope that gets it.
So when you say sentiment,
Yeah.
what you're saying is what everyone would like to see.
Yes.
So as much as I love input,
Right.
I love data more.
Yes.
So I would like to know how are you planning to incorporate traffic studies, plans with land use are you planning to present us with options, or are you just planning to present us with sentiments?
There is a modeling component. There could be usually up to 2 or 3 options or scenarios developed and modeled for a reaction by the community and elected officials, working groups. So that's typical in large plans of this. In terms of reaching consensus, yes, there are many voices in the room. What encourages me is the structure that you all have built into this process. There is going to be room for, you all are very engaged. I think that's key. Second, there'll be an advisory board to help guide us towards some recommendations. Which of these scenarios work best? What projects work best? And there'll be that staff working group, I think, will be extremely helpful as well, because they'll be local partners to help guide us through this process. So, and there'll also be project prioritization. So through this evaluation process, we will come to a set of projects that's acceptable. It may not make everybody happy, but it'll express the vision that you want to see going forward.
When you say project prioritization, is that based on the data?
Yes, it is based on the Southeast Florida regional transit model. It could also be based on the STOPS model, depending on the preference of your traffic engineering team.
So-
And we are very familiar with the SERPA model. We were the ones
I'm
that
sorry, I'm
developed it.
having difficulty hearing you.
Oh, okay, sorry. It could be based on the Southeast Florida Regional Transportation Model, the SERPA model, which we developed and are updating for the 3 MPOs in the region. So that's generally how the transportation projects are modeled. We also are experts in project prioritization. We have teams doing that for LRTPs all over the country and locally. So those are ways to prioritize the projects.
And are those based on population, traffic counts, projects? How are the prioritization in those models
So
calculated?
generally, this is mostly done for master plans, but it's also done in the long-range transportation planning process, which is federally mandated. So the FHWA encourages the use of scenario planning, and then you develop your goals, objectives, and policies based on those scenarios. So the projects follow all that process.
Because 5 of us up here serve on the TPA.
Sure.
And we also have the Regional Transportation Planning Agency.
Yes.
And we go over projects and prioritization and so on.
Yes.
That are voted on mostly by a board.
Yes. Yes.
What I guess I'm getting at is we're spending $995,000 plus dollars. Why would we do that if we as a board are just going to vote on our priorities anyways?
This could be teed up in advance of the next LRTP process and assist in developing the future LRTP, but it seems like your planning director also has some input on it.
I'll jump in for a second. First things first, what you see come through in your TPA role is not exclusive to transportation, multimodal type aspects. Any given local government, cities, us, have any number of projects, whether it's bike lane, whether it's sidewalk enhancement, all those aspects will be included in this, as well as capacity. Kind of going to your point, Vice Mayor, on how you prioritize and where it's at. The board will eventually identify the priorities. I think there's any combination of need, bang for your buck, quite frankly, because it will include some cost valuing that will come along with this. There are great ideas out there that are extremely expensive, which don't make them realistic. There are a number of great ideas that might be realistic. That's the exercise that needs to be completed. The input from the 39 cities is the big one as well, because you could have any given region, and you heard it earlier, the Lions Road example, for instance, and if I transpose that to a military trail, you might be traversing 2 or 3 different cities and unincorporated, worthy of enhancements or changes or tweaks. Don't know. That's what we need to do to roll up our sleeves on that piece.
You want to try saying that again?
No. Short story, need all the feedback from everybody to know. You're asking, how do we prioritize?
Hold on. So again, here we are back to sentiments, feedback. So we are paying them $1 million to get feedback from municipalities.
A lot more than feedback. Starting with feedback, starting with all the, we have already begun prompting the cities to submit their comp plans, mobility plans, land development regulations, all the information, all the data. What is specific to each city? Because we've got to weave 39 cities plus a call it 40th, quite frankly, unincorporated Palm Beach County, as well as DOT, TPA input, Indian Trail Improvement District, a number of others who have transportation inputs that will want to be, as well as civic associations. There'll be a number of groups. School district, we heard, we had that discussion earlier as well. You're
Are
weaving
we-
all those pieces.
Are we going to end up and land with a model that shows us how it will impact traffic, better or worse? Should we implement a certain aspect? For instance, if a road is 2 lanes and we take it to 4 or 6, how will that impact it? If we add a road somewhere, if we take away a road somewhere, if we add a bus stop somewhere, we take away a bus stop somewhere, are we going to end up with a model that gives us that information in our districts?
You will have that kind of information, yes. I want to point out, some areas you cannot expand. It is not, back to my...
It takes land use into consideration?
Oh, yes. That's why we're prompting all our cities to submit all their comp plans, all their zone, all that information. We're asking for that now. We've already begun collecting it.
I just want to make sure we're ending up somewhere for this much money with useful data that we can make
I agree.
informed decisions without a bunch of opinions.
Understand and agree.
That's why we would do this and move forward, proceed forward, and see what that looks like. But when I start hearing a lot about feelings.
Yeah. If I may, understood. And I have up before there's specific task that is part of this project that the consultant needs to fulfill. And it's detailed a little more into the existing data they need to review and plans they have to review, what they need to formulate, cross sections that they need to recommend, and any kind of critical mass to have those, those transportation system align. So that is detailed in the contract and in the scope of work. So you will be getting the analysis. Again, the task team that was formed thought that this is too detailed, but I don't, for us to manage it, we really need to have that to be able to, process the project, invoice, anything that needs to be done. It has to be a little more detailed than just an overall reaching concept. So.
Then when we put, if I could add, when we put together our price proposal, we went through the scope of services
Would you
by
mind
subtask. Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
We went through the scope of services by subtask, and we priced each individual subtask. So we went by item by what was proposed.
I'm going to, I think that's it for my questions today. But I do want to, I will finish with saying I want this to be very data-driven based and present us with real options for solutions to massive infrastructure problems that have fallen behind over the last 10 years. Thank you.
Commissioner Sachs.
Nice to meet y'all. You understand how important our roadways are because you've been here for the beginning. We have good projects that are being compromised because our deficient roads. And every one of us have that in our district. Do you have a corporate office in Florida? I noticed that your contract was signed in New York.
Well, our main Florida office is in Tampa. My supervisor is in Tampa.
How do you like Palm Beach County?
I love Palm Beach County.
You might want to get an office here, so if we have...
We do have an office in Palm Beach County.
Okay, good, very good, thank you.
We have
I didn't
Palm
see it
Beach
in
Lakes
any of the
Boulevard.
legal documents, but if you let us all know, because what I would suggest, picking up on what my colleagues have said, is that we like to have feedback from you all. You're gonna, let's say you have a annual, 1-year contract. Can you come back, can we come back and hear this again after maybe 6 months?
We will have monthly and or
Monthly
quarterly
is good.
report for you, either written form or at milestones that's required where the consultant team will come and have their representative. So we'll make sure that we have some kind of a communication plan on a regular basis with the board. But I may want to add also, knowing that the traffic concerns around the western community throughout the county is a concern. I believe one of the reasons why the selection committee had picked this team was they have Victor Dover-Cole, who was the original master plan consultant for the county. So they are very well, versed in that realm. So,
Twee, I want to commend you because I know you had a lot to do with this, and you have been a real force in having this happen. And when I look at the staff report, this group has been meeting with Boca Raton, Lake Park, Palm Beach, many of the cities they've already met with. It appears like, back in last year. So you've already done a lot of work with our municipalities, which leads me to the question. The county's paying almost $1 million. How much are the cities paying?
So our contribution, the board's contribution, is what's funding it in its entirety.
So the cities, 39 municipalities, are not putting in any skin in the game, so to speak.
Direct funding, no. Certainly participation, hosted us.
Participation
in-kind
in telling us
services.
what roads they would like us
But
to
yes.
fix.
Yep.
I find that troubling, to put that on county taxpayers for all the 39 municipalities, some of which could afford to have some monetary contribution to this, but I think we're at the 11th hour, Mr. Attorney, right? So I don't think we can review that, but I just find it troubling that we pick up the whole tab on 39 municipalities. But moving on, I think it's an excellent idea. I would like to point out to my colleagues that you're going to be looking at multimodal transportation needs, which concerns bicycle paths, bicycle barriers, wider sidewalks, and ways of, as you put here, which is well said, people to places. Is that correct? I can't hear you. You got to say yes or no.
Yes, that is correct.
Good. So it's not just widening Lyons Road. You're going to be talking about safe bicycle paths to our schools, things like that as well.
Yes, that was an important part of developing the team. Our Dover Cole has a multimodal emphasis. The internal staff that we're bringing on, one of them is managing the Broward County Safe Streets for All program and is an expert in streetscape design for multimodal emphasis.
So a lot of what we discussed earlier with getting in and out of school safely will be part of your review. And we will get monthly reports to each commissioner. Thank you very much. It's excellent. Excellent project. Thank you.
Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you very much for, we're going to get to know each other very well. Hi. So I have a couple of things I think it's important. Some of my fellow commissioners do know that the city managers began working on, and the city councils around, I don't know how many we ended up with, but a number passed resolutions delegating to their city managers to have their planners, their engineers, their public works participate in this. All of that's been done. I don't know how many cities, a majority of the cities actually did this, so we're calling it iPark 2.0 for our resident planner on our board, Commissioner Powell. He's very familiar with planning and how important planners are in this process. When we first talked about it, and I went out into my area talking to people about it, I envisioned it as being kind of we have this almost paint by numbers map, and we're going to fill in part of it. Cities are going to fill in part of it. The school district, FDOT, there's a number of different entities that fill in the map that covers the whole county. And speaking of why we, the county, are footing the bill on this, just for myself, I think that we should, because every resident in the county pays us taxes. If we ask the cities to also pay for this, we're asking some residents to double dip. Because I live in a city and I had to drive through a number of cities to get here. All of us drove through a city to get to where we are, and asking cities to double pay or to pay on this, and unincorporated, you're paying one time. I think this is about the fairest way we could do this. If you live in this county, you pay us property taxes. We are using a part of this to form a countywide plan. It's little c county, because it's everybody who lives in this county. Whether you live in a city or not, you're represented by one of the 7 of us on this board. That being said, I encourage you to get to know all of us very well because we do represent very different areas. I have 13 cities. And some of us have completely unincorporated, east, west, urban. It's all very different. And if you're having any trouble getting some of the cities to participate, I would encourage you to come to us and we can nudge some of them along. The multi-jurisdictional board, MCFEC, there's an issues forum. There's a number of entities we kind of put into place to make sure that we're nudge those. You know, if some are falling behind or not cooperating and you want to hit that year mark, come to us for help on that. And I'm hoping when you're done with all of this, there are a number of options, including things like smart signalization, because I hate traffic lights. I think there's a couple members of this board that share, sorry to our traffic engineers, but I hate our traffic signals. We sit at a lot of intersections unnecessarily. So you could help us with some of that. And then also coordinating projects, because I know I hear from some of my cities sometimes, or if FDOT's gonna do a road project, or even for us, we don't always know. And, you know, sometimes coordinating these projects would be very beneficial, or even some cities don't talk to each other, or they're gonna pave one whole area and they're just gonna stop. And why not talk to your neighboring jurisdiction and continue that up the road? There's a number of things that, and drainage issues. There's just a lot of group projects that municipalities and us, we could coordinate better and actually get better pricing on some of the projects that need to be done. I'm hoping for that, some of that to come from you. And of course, you know, we're going to be talking about public transportation, and, you know, we have Palm Tran that we're responsible for. And I think we're all in agreement as we're moving forward with even, you know, potentially rerouting some of this, and that's where we need some help. But land use is a big one. And, you know, it's not for us to tell each other what to do, but I'm hopeful that you're going to give us this living document as things change throughout the county. You know, projects get approved, then we can still see what's coming. Or we maybe even can run simulations of what's coming. And, you know, if this gets approved, what's the effect of that trickles over into other jurisdictions? Because we do impact each other when we approve stuff. And that's what I'm hoping that also you're going to be able to deliver. So it's a big ask, but technology's there, and I'm sure you can do it. So.
Absolutely, and I think our team is ready to deliver a plan that you guys will be proud of. It'll be your plan, because
and it's a living plan that's not just something you're going to hand to us. This
No,
goes for a long time, right? Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Weiss.
Thank you, Mayor. First off, thank you for being here. And I looked at your portfolio. It's impressive of who you've assisted. But my question has to do with things are changing technologically as we look at, you know, autonomous vehicles, as we look at, you know, you've got e-bikes now, you have, you know, different things that are some are on the scene today, others are, you know, on the verge of coming. How are you going to incorporate those types of things into this study?
So perhaps a model is, I worked on the Miami-Dade 2050 LRTP, and one of the scenarios focused on future technologies. It talked about developing incorporating autonomous air mobility, scooters, bicycles, all of those efforts. So bringing them into the equation from the beginning. Also, there's some practical considerations. How do you incorporate higher speed electric bikes into the bikeways? So those are things that will get down into the fine-grained design in some of the sample sites. So we're very committed to incorporating future technologies into our work.
I mean, I think that has to be sort of the crux of it all. I mean, if you think about, you know, the smart, even the smart vehicles that we have today, they have the capability of talking to each other, talking to the traffic devices, and, you know, how we do that in terms of, as my colleague was talking about, I mean, I've been an advocate of smart signal technology for a number of years here, and we are We are nowhere in Palm Beach County with those technologies. And so I think it plays an important role. And then in on the traffic management side, in the modeling, I mean, we have virtually zero here. And I mean, if I want to look at traffic, I go to Waze, I look at that, we're managing, you've got a traffic management center it is staffed, but they have thousands of cameras to look at, but those cameras only go to monitors.
Right.
And if that engineer is not watching that monitor at that time, they don't see the issue that's happening. And I think it's incumbent upon this study to bring out the opportunities, the deficiencies from a technological perspective that we should be taking advantage of.
Yeah, I've seen your traffic control room. I've been in the conference room right next to it. It's massive. There's tons of screens. So yes, we have ITS experts on the team, on our traffic team, in our other Orlando, on a national level, and we have some experts in the Orlando office as well.
I mean, Orlando is actually does a very good job in how they're managing up there. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We'll make sure to incorporate that.
Thank you, and I think I'll wrap this up. It was Commissioner Weiss that started the discussion about hiring a consultant a while back. I recall when I first got on commission asking for a comprehensive plan of our county. That's what we're looking for, and that means talking to our 39 municipalities, talking to our school districts, talking to our 200-plus special taxing districts, talking to our partners in the business community and the faith-based community and the nonprofit community. It's a big task, and I just hope that you are up to a task that really needs some good answers. And what we're looking for is to take us into the future. We've hired a new administrator to help us take us into the future. That's what this plan is going to do. So I don't think you can hear it enough from our board that we want to be engaged. We need to be engaged. So we look forward to those personal meetings with you, everything that comes back to us from our staff, the different committees, the IPARC committee, the MCFIC committee, the County Managers Association. We have cards. Do you guys still want to talk? Sure. How about come up quickly, say you're in support, and then we can vote yes and go to lunch and be done with our meeting. How does that sound? Don't you like it when somebody just says, this is what we're going to do?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and the commissioners. I appreciate the opportunity. I will be very brief, but I wanted to seize the opportunity here also to kind of introduce the MCFIC. In order to make sure we get that concept right, we start with, and I got to read it all the time because it is an interesting acronym, Multi-Jurisdictional Issues Coordination Forum Executive Committee, of which, in addition to being the mayor of Royal Palm Beach, I am also the vice chair. So we look forward to having opportunities to hear from you all. Our approach, I'm going to suggest, would be one of asking for an overview to start the conversation, so we won't have to piecemeal to try to figure out how you're going to approach dealing with some of the challenges here. Our challenge, being part of the Intergovernmental Coordination Program as an executive committee, is to coordinate and provide access to representatives, the elected officials, as well as some of the technical staff, which will be part of the contribution that our municipalities will be making to this effort, so that we can be brought along together. Because coming up with even the best living document with the greatest model in the world is going to be something less than totally successful if everybody doesn't buy into it. And so that's part of our responsibility, I think, as a intergovernmental coordination program element. So I wanted to say, looking forward to working with you, assuming the vote goes well, and that this is a huge effort that's headed in the right direction. And by the way, it's got a little spin-off value. As the municipalities learn to work well with the county, this is not going to be the last time we have one of those countywide issues to deal with. So I think this is a tremendous step in the right direction. So thank you, commissioners, also for the resolution. I will tell you, we've been using that as a guideline. So we've got all of the right things in place. Thank you very much.
That's the briefest I've seen you, Jeff. I did the best I could.
Thank you, Mayor Amara.
Mayor and Commissioners, Mike Bornstein. I'm the village manager for the Village of Palm Springs. First, I want to commend this body for your leadership on this issue as a true countywide issue. It's about time. We're probably 20 or 30 years late in getting to it, but it's better late than never. And I also want to commend you on the resolution that the mayor had just mentioned, that you took a policy direction for this organization to participate in the Intergovernmental Coordinating Program as the place where we all intersect. I think there's a lot of assumptions among people in general, and maybe even on this body from some of the comments I've heard, that the cities and the county have all this coordination on all that we do, including our future land use maps, our zoning, and it's just, unless somebody knows something I don't know, we have been very siloed. As managers, professional managers, we're always trained in our organizations that the departments are not to be siloed for a lot of reasons that creates inefficiencies and competition. That scales up, but it hasn't been scaled up to the cities and the county as effectively as you may be assuming has happened. So the Intergovernmental Coordinating Program, the MCFEC Executive Committee, and the IPARC 2.0, this is the place where we all intersect by interlocal agreement, and it's vital that we make this work to make this a success, because everybody has a seat at the table. They may not participate, they may not agree, but this is the first time that I can recall being somebody who has worked in this county. I worked at the county commission several stints, and I've been a manager for 3 cities now. I've never seen this tone and tenor about working together in a collaborative way, whether it's from the League of Cities, and kudos to them for taking that position, as well as to the individual bodies, the City Managers Association. We're breaking new territory here. We're grateful for the leadership you're providing. We believe that the consultant's going to get us a very important document. It's not a one and done. It's going to be a continual process. And to Mayor Amara's comment, if we can get this right, we may look at retooling the Intergovernmental Coordinating Program, which was founded in 1993. It's a little outdated. It's kind of like taking a school bus to race in Daytona, but it'll get us through the race. We need to talk about what comes next, because there are big issues that I hear from this board. They say this is the countywide issue: water, housing, jobs, economic development, schools, all those things, but they've never been sanctioned by all the people, the jurisdictions who are responsible, that are your cities, your districts, and the county. We all have in our charters authorities for infrastructure funding and planning, but also the ancillary issues: planning, zoning, housing, utilities, service provision for health, safety, and welfare. We all are in the same boat. We got to stop being siloed. This is that effort. I want to compliment the selection committee process, Patrick, his team, purchasing, everyone who participated. It was an amazing process. It was unprecedented. I was really honored to be a part of it. And I also want to recognize Brian Morey, who was the past president of the City Managers Association. He couldn't be on it, but he's been our guru for transportation. And there's a lot of other people I won't get to. Thank you very much for this.
Thank you. I've got a motion from Commissioner Woodward, or second from Commissioner Weiss. All in favor? All opposed? See that the motion carries.
Just want to clarify a point. It was discussed early about amending the contract on the 3 months, or we understand the direction, leave the contract as is. You've got the schedule that shows 12 months if you leave it as is, but we clearly understand you want it done in 12 months. But leave it in as is. Okay, just making sure.
I apologize. I was sick last week, so I couldn't do the agenda review, so I probably would have hashed that out. So I agree with this is for other tasks, so I have no problem.
Okay. So we have 5 on the dais. All approved? Motion approved 5-0. Thank you. We have one more item on the agenda. Lisa, how long do you think this will take? Perfect. Let's get it done. Thank you, staff. Fabulous job. WSP, I see your office is, you got an office in Gardens. We're going to look you up. Good
morning? No,
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
This is a follow-up to a presentation by HED, Housing and Economic Development. Is it on? Yes, it's on my computer. This is accessory dwellings. On February 11th, the Commission on Affordable Housing presented to this board, or HED presented the recommendations from the Commission on Affordable Housing, different strategies to address the housing crisis in the county for affordability. So one of those ideas was, why don't we consider severing the meter between a principal residence and an accessory dwelling unit? So in order to do that, that's in the zoning wheelhouse and in the planning wheelhouse. So we did some research and we came back with this presentation for you, and we could send it out digitally to all the commissioners as well. We can't really talk about severing the meter between the principal residence and the accessory unless we tell you a little bit more about how they work and why they work. So the benefits of accessory dwellings are adding living area or income for the homeowner because they are rentable, increasing housing diversity, and also increasing the housing stock. And we have regulations in the Land Development Code. I think there's a party going on at the back of the room. There's some regulatory framework that is there for these, and that is to keep the accessory dwelling accessory to the principal residence. So another concept is they support homeownership. They support if you have a family member that needs extra living area and they want some privacy, they can be on your property, or you could rent it out, as mentioned, at least in our county. Another thing that's really important about the regulations for these accessory dwellings is that we want to ensure that when they are put in, they meet codes, building code, fire code, et cetera, and that there isn't an opportunity for unscrupulous property owners to take advantage of renters. So our county regulations, you all know density is regulated by the comprehensive plan for our single-family, townhouse, zero lot line, multifamily uses in the code. There's also other types of housing that are on a bed-based count. And there are 7 different types of accessory living quarters. These are habitable spaces for sleeping and sanitation. And we use the term quarters instead of dwelling units when we talk about accessory living arrangements. That's because decisions were made in the past to use the term dwelling unit synonymous with density, which is synonymous to your future land use designation. So I'll be using accessory quarters. So if you have a principal use that's non-residential, you can have accessory caretaker quarters, accessory employee housing. If your principal use is agriculture, you could have caretaker quarters, farm worker quarters, which soon will be a principal use. You could have groom quarters or a farm residence. And if you're a residential single-family townhome zero lot line, you can have 2 types, guest cottage or accessory quarters. The difference is a kitchen. If you're doing accessory quarters, you have a kitchen and you have your impact fees as a dwelling. And if you're doing a guest cottage, it's kind of a pool house. You have maybe sleeping bathroom. You don't have a kitchen, and you pay less impact fees. So the type of regulations vary, but depending on what type of the 7 units you are. And pretty much the standards across the board is you have to be on 1 lot. You have limitations on the number of quarters allowed, and you have typically the same setbacks as the principal dwelling. So the accessory quarters use is the use that ties in with accessory dwelling unit, that ADU term. They are permitted by right in the county. Everyone can have one. If you have a single family home and you have enough space, you can have an accessory dwelling unit. You have to have a parking space. You can rent them, but the property owner must reside in the principal dwelling. And your square footage, if you're less than an acre, the maximum square footage is 800 square feet. If you're greater than an acre, the maximum square footage is 1,000 square feet. In either of those instances, your accessory dwelling can attach a garage or a porch or patio up to another 500 square feet. This a little graphic, shows sheds are not houses. They are subject to a lesser setback, but if you want to turn it into living area, typically you have the same setback is your principal use. We looked at other governments. We looked at a bunch of other cities as that are shown on the slide. We also looked at counties, rather. Oops. We looked at counties, we looked at cities. These are the cities we looked at because we wanted to see how are we doing unincorporated county? How are we doing compared to how all of the other counties and cities do? So this slide shows what we discovered. Almost all require that the owner resides on the property. That's what makes it accessory. But some allow the property owner to live in the smaller house and rent out the bigger house, which is an interesting concept. Most allow, as we do, to get your accessory dwelling straight through building permit. Some have a special permit or rental registry. Many allow a rental, but some do not allow rental. Some allow a separate meter, but typically those agencies have a rental registry or a special permit in place to help regulate. Many allow attached or detached, and most have a cap on square footage, sometimes related to the principal dwelling. Some of them limit it to only workforce and affordable housing incomes. We do not do that here, and that's something that I don't know that zoning can tackle on the time that it would take to monitor that. And some have minimum lot sizes. So this table shows how do we compare. Our 800 square foot cap on less than an acre is pretty small. If the board wanted to consider any changes, going up a little bit on that percentage, but perhaps tying with a percentage of the principal dwelling might be something to consider. Greater than an acre, we're a little more on par with some of the studies that some of the counties that we studied. Something about mobile homes and recreational vehicles. None of the local governments that we surveyed allowed recreational village, why can't I say it? Vehicles to be used as accessory living area. Some allow mobile home in rural areas, but you see on the bottom right of this graphic, this is a tiny home on wheels. Technically, we don't have any regs for that yet. That might be something looked at in the way of the future that seems to be pretty popular nationwide, tiny homes or tiny homes on wheels. No one that we could find incorporated those into their land development regs for accessory dwelling. I mentioned the affordability. Apparently, we used to have in the 1972 code a requirement that the household be limited to disabled or elderly. We got rid of that years ago, and we also no longer regulate the housing affordability of the accessory dwellings. And one last thing I want to point out is one of the really interesting trends is attached accessory dwellings. These are mother-in-law suites, or your child graduates school and they want to live there, or all sorts of different scenarios. We currently do not allow this. If the board was looking at something a little more creative, I think this is an area that's worthy of looking into. I think these are pretty intriguing. They do them around, I believe Apex is in Avenir, yes, which is in Municipal Palm Beach Gardens. It shows that this floor plan, you can have these extra bedrooms, or you could turn them into a mother-in-law, father-in-law, son-in-law suite, or just a rental for additional housing. So in conclusion, if the board would like to separate the meter, I suggest that we implement a special permit process or some sort of regulatory ability for us to ensure that the accessory dwelling remains accessory. Also, if the board wanted any changes to the code, we should look at attached and possibly increasing the square footage. Really, there is a concern. I know I live in municipal Lake Worth, and there was a concern about accessory dwellings that it would encourage, if everyone could have one, it would encourage investors to buy the 2 units and rent them both out. We require that the homeowner resides on site, but still, that is there without having a special permit process. There's no registry, and it's up to someone reporting someone to property appraiser or the county that an investor purchased. It's a difficult thing to manage. And having some kind of registry and inspection and permit would allow us to ensure that those accessory dwellings meet building and fire code as well. So that concludes.
And so just to clarify, you're looking for input from the board today?
Input today, or you can say don't have to change a thing and just leave it right now.
Okay. Everybody's light is on. Commissioner Flores, we'll start with you.
Yes, I think this is an important topic. since we were looking for direction, I'd like to give my input. Yes to a separate meter. The 800 square foot, I'm okay with going up to 1,000 on anything under. I do get concerned about conversion of sheds into these, so we have to make sure that there's a process where we inspect any accessory dwelling units, so that we keep a quality standard of living. Regarding alternative structures, I think it must match the aesthetics of the neighborhood. So if there's no mobile homes, there shouldn't be a mobile home. If there's no tiny homes, there shouldn't be tiny homes. I think we have to be very respectful to the neighborhood. So I don't want to help something out, I don't want to inconvenience the rest of the community. So I just want to be very, very careful that it must match the aesthetics of that neighborhood. The homestead exemption, that would be obviously to the homeowner, correct?
Well, homestead exemptions, right now our code requires the property to be owner occupied, but it doesn't clearly provide a mechanism. If we were revising the code, it should be a little more clear on how we identify if it's homeowner occupied, and having homestead exception is one of those things. So if we were revising the code, you know, we have difficulty implementing this part of the code without a special permit or without any kind of tracking. I couldn't even gather the data to find out how many accessory units we have because of the way that building permits are submitted. So that would be just a technique to verify whether or not it's owner occupied. We would be looking at homestead exemption. And I would hope that if you had homestead, you were really living on the property. But that's just mentioned as one of the techniques that we could verify that the homeowner is residing on the site.
So they're technically renting these out, right?
They're allowed to rent out.
Right. And we're talking about a separate meter, but yet they're still, that portion would be homesteaded too?
Yeah, Jerome, when you talk to property appraiser, they have a homestead on the principal residence, and they could still rent out the accessory dwelling.
Yeah, they'll still be able to rent it. It's just if it changes, if the property owner now resides in the accessory. That's when the homestead stuff changes.
Okay. That part I'm not quite sure. I will hear what my fellow commissioners have to say. Thanks.
Commissioner Powell.
Thank you all for the presentation. A couple things I wanted to run by. You indicated that there's no regulations with regard to the tiny home on wheels. Is that what it was called?
Yeah, right now we don't recognize those. We don't, tiny homes come up and they are allowed by the building code, but on a slab, or we don't have a tiny homes on wheels. We haven't had a conversation on those or regulations for those. Right now we would probably treat them as a recreational vehicle.
I was going to ask that question. What would be the difference between that and a recreational vehicle? The other input I have is to the chart that we looked at earlier with less than an acre and more than an acre, the 800 square feet. The challenge that I see is the fact that it depends on the square footage of this would, of course, provide more work, but the challenge is it does depend on the lot size, and then the square footage, of course, I don't think it could be blanket because it depends on the size of the main structure. If the main structure is close to hitting all the setbacks, how big can you really go in terms of the size of the accessory quarters, and then, you know, pervious and impervious, and then, you know, driveways and sidewalks and regulations. I don't know if there's a way we can blanket state that we could move that number up to, but then again, it's land in the county. So 900 or 1,000 square feet if you're less than an acre, because I think you still have to look at the size of the main structure, how much pervious and impervious. There's a lot that goes into it if I start thinking about it. So, I mean, I agree with Commissioner Flores with regard to allowing the meters to be separated and using best practices to move this forward so that we provide. But I also understand the challenge of regulating to make sure that investors aren't coming in and seeing this as an opportunity to rent out both units. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for this presentation. I do agree with the separate meters. Whatever we need to do to move forward to make that happen. My question on the homestead versus owner occupied, because I mean, we just want to make sure that they're not renting out both properties, but if we have snowbirds perhaps that are here and they live in it, but they're not actually a resident, would that prohibit them from being able to do this? Or
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? If they're seasonal?
if they're seasonal, I mean, it's their
that's
home.
interesting. That's a good point. Yeah, right now, we just require that the property is owner occupied. And, you know, yeah, that would be a challenge if we added on top of the owner occupied a homestead. Maybe that's why that rule's not actually there yet. So that's something to consider. Yeah, we wouldn't want to be taking, since I've been here, we haven't made any land development regs more strict. We've mostly been kind of relaxing them a little bit. So yeah, I wouldn't want to add on top of the ownership homestead if that would create a seasonal issue.
Okay. All right, yeah, because I mean, you know, we do have seasonal residents that live there and they're not renting out both of them, but okay, thank you. And then I appreciate the being creative, the attached, you know, times are changing and we're having multiple generations even are, you know, just options for people to be able to have additional income. And I know that, because you had mentioned sometimes the homeowner, you know, if they're older, they might want to move into the smaller unit and rent out the larger home. They're still going to live on their property, but, you know, maybe they've lost their spouse, they're one person, they just be happy to live in the 800 square foot home and then you supplement their income, their Social Security, by having the ability to rent the larger house. So I do like that. And as far as the special permit, I think that would be the way to go, not a rental registry. I think that's going to add a lot more work on us and people having to just keep up a registry, especially if they're renting it to a family member. It's not, the special permit I think would suffice to make sure that we're kind of keeping these under control, but we don't have to regulate the rental part of it. And then on the square foot, was it Pinellas that had the 1,000 just across the board? It was a maximum of 1,000 square feet. Yeah, I mean, it's.
Duval was 750.
I think that we could go a little bigger, but I mean, that's the maximum amount that would be allowed. And I think if we approve this and the market perhaps takes off, if everyone just knows you can only get 1,000, I'm just trying to make it as simple as possible moving forward. If we're doing percentages of acres, then someone's going to be like, oh, I could have 1,350 square feet. I mean, I might be getting too in the weeds on it, but I would like to make it as simple as possible. If we're just say it's 1,000 square feet, that's your max, you know, go forth and conquer, or you know, go smaller. You can tell us on that, but move forward with it and, you know, give us the easiest way to allow homeowners to do this. But I think that covered all of the feedback you were looking for.
Thank you. Commissioner Weiss.
Thank you. I think separate meters is fine. In fact, I think it actually would require them to go pull a permit, so even it would identify the existing ADUs if that's what they choose to do. I think we didn't have any discussion about prefab, and I think that's something we need to consider. I have no issue with prefabricated units. I thought the discussion on, I think so here's a real challenge. So once it gets built, and if that property gets sold, how do you determine then that they're not renting out or renting out both units?
Without having a the only way we would know, because we don't have any kind of registry, I couldn't manage trying to even find them with the building permit data. We wouldn't know unless somebody reported them.
Okay, so I think the best thing, the best thing we can do, and that is going to be to help the property appraiser, that these be homesteaded. And if the owner chooses to live in the back unit, then that's what would be homesteaded. The front unit would be then taxed at a commercial rate. And I think that would be the best we could do. And if if the property is not homesteaded at all, then the whole property is going to get taxed as with the 2 units. And then the property appraiser is going to know that there's 2 units on there and will tax them accordingly. I think that's the best scenario we can come up with, that both, you get the benefit of the homestead, and if it's a family member, everybody is that would cover the entire property by getting us, and then that would then lead to the special permit. So the special permit in place, I think, is also something that should be done. I have no issue with the attached ADU. I think that's a fine idea, so something that we should also bring back. So those are my comments.
Thank you. Mr. Stone?
Thank you, Mayor. Just going back to something Lisa mentioned about more restrictive, if adding the homestead exemption would make it more restrictive, or any of these, which would make it more restrictive, just to note that there is that bill, SB 180. It hasn't been signed yet by the governor, as far as I'm aware, but it would prohibit us for, I think, a period of 3 years at least from adopting more burdensome or restrictive land development regulations. So staff can keep that in mind as we're moving forward with this and adapt accordingly.
Thank you. Commissioner Sacks?
God, this is a great idea. And I'm so happy that you all worked on it. It's very comprehensive what you've done as well. This will help so many people. And I like the way that you have for the farm residents. I know Commissioner Baxter's not here right now, but this would be great advantage for a lot of our plant nurseries, even today, and a lot of our agricultural workers, that this will be possible once it gets passed. I just want to thank you. This is huge, and this is really coming into what a lot of cities, San Francisco, for example, and Washington, D.C., with the what they call them, granny quarters, or mother-in-law quarters, whoever it is. I would like to see close collaboration with the property appraiser on this, because as Commissioner Weiss mentioned, we need to make sure that whatever tax advantages or incentives that we have with homestead exemption be also required under some of these different ways of accessory dwellings. But also, one other thing to caution is, I'm sure that our building department will make sure that any accessory building is by Miami standards for construction and things like that, because these tiny houses are all over the place. You can order it on Amazon, but they are not, they're not Miami standards for our storms. Other than that, we're going in the right direction. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, and I think I'll wrap this up, and then we can all go get lunch. Separate meters, absolutely, with a permit. I don't think anything over 1,000 square feet should be allowed, and setbacks will dictate that. We are saying specifically only 1 additional dwelling unit. I want to make that clear. It's not like you can put 10 additional dwelling units if you live on something larger than an acre. There should be nothing on wheels, because that becomes temporary. And that's more like hey, drive your place in, let me rent space to you, and then leave. So I don't think there should be anything on wheels allowed. We do need to work with the property appraiser about what is homesteaded and what isn't, and saying that it has to be, the homeowner has to be living there doesn't really regulate it very much. And I don't want to get into the position where people are buying properties and then they're building dwelling units and they now have 2 rental properties on this property. I don't want to see that happen because owners tend to take care of their property more than other folks do. So as for matching the neighborhood, I think that Commissioner Flores said that. Not sure how we dictate that, but it needs to be something that does fit in with our building code. So as Commissioner Sachs said, it does need to be hurricane rated. And as I said, okay, max of 1 unit, separate meter, square footage. I'm plus or minus on that, but if there is a way that this becomes homesteaded, I think that's something that we need to do. And I appreciate Attorney Stone, telling us about the adding restrictions, but I think it's a way of us to monitor. And also, it's an opportunity for our tax appraiser and assessor to know what's going on. Commissioner Sachs and then Commissioner Flores.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't want to give direction that we should limit any of this right now, because most respectfully, they have in page 5 of your report, which is comprehensive, there's different types. There's farm residences, farm workers, there's cities. So I think we should look at the different options with regard to where these accessory dwellings are. That's
No,
all.
my question only was a maximum of 1.
If the principal residence is single-family, 0 lot line, or townhome, they can have only 1. If it's a farm, they can have multiple farm worker quarters and things.
Okay, that was not clarified. Thank you.
But it's beautifully put out in their comprehensive outline of it, which shows all the different kinds. Farm worker housing, it would be huge for our agriculture. But you don't want that in a city. So you put it out like this. I don't want to limit. There's not one size fits all, but I think we're all in agreement that it's a good thing. We'll continue on with it. And I just can't wait to charge my kids rent.
Commissioner Flores.
Delete that from the record.
So I do want to agree with the homestead, as Commissioner Weiss and Commissioner Marino have mentioned. So I'm good with that. Height limits, is there going to be height limits on these?
There is a requirement about compatibility and character, the existing accessory quarter regs. But on height, that's just one of the interesting things that I found. Most of the other governments had a percentage of the principal residence. But I guess right now you can have a 2-story garage apartment on your thing right now and a 1-story principal residence. So we don't have a relationship. You just get your 800 square feet if you're less than an acre. We don't require a relationship between the principal residence, but that's things that we could look at because it makes sense. Like, for example, some of the local governments, they say you could have 1,000 square feet, but you can't be more than 50% of the principal residence. We don't have that. So technically you can have like 1,000 square foot principal house and an 800 or 1,000 square foot accessory unit, which is kind of weird, but.
I want to respect the character of the neighborhood, and I don't want like an eyesore, a towering, because they're trying to maximize their 1,000 square feet and they only have ground square footage that's smaller, so then they create this monstrosity. People can get creative, so I'm just saying, how do we balance that respect of the neighbors, the community, without creating a monstrosity? So we may want to look at restricting the height to maybe whatever the main component is.
We can add that to this. This will take some work, listening to all your feedback today, and we would come back in a couple months with some ideas and put some more into this. And so we'll add other type height and other things to talk about next time we come back.
Thank you. All right, so I think we've beaten this horse County Attorney, any comments?
Yeah, just the messenger again about the height. If it's something that might be more restrictive on what's allowed, we'll just have to look to see if it might be preempted if and when that happens.
Thank you. Planning Director.
No, we're good.
Thank you,
No
Tui.
comments from planning.
Zoning,
No comments.
PZB, Executive Director.
Just, congratulations to staff for bringing the countywide transportation master plan. I appreciate all their hard work, and we're looking forward to working on that because it's just now getting started, actually, the work. So thank you for that, and congratulations to the new county administrator, and we appreciate that, and we'll be happy to work with them in the future.
Thank you. Deputy County Administrator.
No comment.
Okay. Commissioner comments? Anybody? Are we done? Everybody's lights going on? Commissioner Flores?
Yes, I just want to congratulate the Florida Panthers for winning another championship. So I'm extremely proud of that. And we'll get another photo up with the Stanley Cup.
Yes, we will. Commissioner Sachs?
Thank you. I want to publicly commend Whitney Carroll and Twee for doing the work they did. They did extra special work to explain certain things in zoning and planning. And I thank you for that work that you did. That was beyond, and I think one email to me was like after 6 p.m. So publicly, I want to commend you for the excellent work that you do. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Always keeping your home ready and safe from a storm threat is a good idea. Windows are among the most vulnerable parts of your home during a hurricane. Protecting them is crucial for minimizing damage. Install storm shutters or impact windows. If that's not an option, have a plan to put up storm panels to protect your home windows. Clear debris from gutters, downspouts, and outside drainage. Consider installing a French drain or a sump pump if your yard tends to flood. These can help manage excess water and protect your home's foundation. Make sure your outdoor items don't become projectiles during any storm is a good idea. Have the forethought to consider placement of any yard items before a storm even comes. Keeping up with your yard maintenance should always be a part of your storm plan. If you aren't into yard work like me and have large trees or shrubs, consider hiring a professional.
Be ready. Be informed. Visit readypbc.com.
Welcome to Inside PBC, where we highlight what's going on inside Palm Beach County. Free outdoor experiences for the whole family are available through the Summer Adventure Await series. You'll explore the county's natural areas with events like sunset hikes, paddle tours, and more. Free summer lunch and weekend meal kits for kids 18 and younger are available at some library branches throughout the county. This partnership with the school district provides lunch Monday through Friday with a few holiday exceptions. One weekend meal kit per child in attendance